let's start with the Maxroll Spiritborn podcast, although we're going to cover a little bit more than just the Spiritborn, but that's going to be at least the first topic. We're going to start with the general feel and the build and combo potential that the Spiritborn brings with it and that we have seen during the content reveal. And I also wanted to talk about the co-op endgame activity, our wishes and ideas for the Dark Citadel. We actually have seen the name in some of the screenshots while hovering over some items. Then we're gonna discuss the newly found level 60 screenshot with the little 1 in the bracket, so maybe a new level cap or possible consequences stemming from that screenshot. And we also want to know a little bit more about the trip to Seattle in general for the boys. And then at the end, we are also going to go quickly into some chat questions. Maybe very brief introduction. I think by now everybody knows you quite well. Maybe Mac, will you start us out, then Woody, and then Rex?
My name is Macrobioboy. I'm the undefeated pool table casual game during a live stream versus Sarah bracket. We ran a single competition. I was very excited. Just barely got a win there. Hopefully people heard it live.
Okay, so for me, I'm Woody. I blast a lot of RPGs, especially D4, and I am the team lead for the D4 team on Maxroll. And I like a lot of Rogue and Spiritborn.
My name is Rex. I wear a blue hoodie. I play all the ARPGs, and I play them not very well.
That's definitely not true. Gotta call him out on that one. So let's directly start out with, maybe I should say I'm Chronix. I'm part of the D4 Guide Rider team, specifically for the Necromancers as well for Maxroll. And let's jump straight in. Spiritborn, general feeling. What are your first impressions? Woody, you said you're going to play a lot of Spiritborn right now. Maybe you start us off on that one.
Well, my general impressions. I mean, if you have played Diablo 3, then you're going to recognize the monk feel from that class. I think it's, the kind of like mocking like terms like jungle monk definitely feel like they're just about right for this class. And it's very fast, very agile. It has like these triple hit combos built into multiple effects, actually, not just the basic attacks. And yeah, it's very like combo heavy as well. Not in the sense that you have to press like many buttons necessarily, but like you can combine, certain scaling mechanisms. You can, combine the different spirits that it has and, build around those effects that it give you. And I think that really makes for a lot of like variety in the playstyle that will be appreciated by a lot of people, especially myself, liking like to theory craft a lot of builds. So, I'm going to be busy very long for this.
Yeah, the thing for me about the Spiritborn that is the reason to be excited about it and it like going forward is it kind of reminds me of how the Druid was in the beginning, where a lot of the uniques and the different legendary powers enable you to do a lot of theory crafting, because you can make everything a gorilla skill or a jaguar skill or whatever, and there's going to be some really ultimate combinations that just give you infinite sustain and resources and staying alive, doing crazy damage. Once we dive in there and figure them all out, it's going to be pretty insane. One kind of like insider piece of info that I got from talking to some of the devs who have played more Spiritborn on like further builds and know a lot more than we do, is they said once you unlock a lot of the uniques later on in the game that we haven't seen, they really, really enable the Spiritborn to do some crazy things. So all of the different possibilities with its class mechanic and the uniques is going to give like theory crafters everything that they ever wanted. Before I walked in, I was hoping that the Spiritborn would be like a combination of the Diablo 3 monk and the WoW shaman. I'm not getting any WoW shaman vibes at all, which is sad, but I think the monk style and the way that it was presented is good enough for me to be very interested in it for a very long time.
That's actually very interesting, and I'm not about to explain to Rex how he feels about the shaman. I think there are a lot of skills on the Spiritborn that are akin to it being a spellcaster, which like it had a lot of that like elementalism vibe to me. Like you saw Woody's the combination of like the razor wing attack and the counter attack from Jaguar, which says as long as you have your counter attack up, they will infinitely like spin back off of you. And I don't know, there was something like very like almost like lightning storm-ish to that for me, but with bird feathers as opposed to lightning effects. But I mean, the class is cracked out of its gourd. I'm pretty excited for the first time that somebody says to me, but what if I just want to play a pure gorilla build? How come you will never make just a pure gorilla build? And it's because the class is a hybrid. Like I have no idea how we're going to refer to different builds on this class. Like, oh, mine's the primary Jaguar, sub Eagle, using poison, centipede alt, Thorns Fort Jaguar. That one's mine. That's how I'm building. Like how are we going to refer to these things?
You got your little corner of the theory crafting builds there. So.
Yeah, it's just going to have ridiculous names. Like we're going to be using like Supermax Plus Jaguar. But I'm like the thing's great. I think everybody walking into the expansion is also going to be a Spiritborn guide writer. Like you're going to see so many people playing this thing and trying to crack it and all the different things that you can do with it. It's also kind of cool because since they have two specific weapon types that no other classes have, they have this design space where their unique weapons can be very, very powerful and transformative for them because they don't have to consider any other classes using them. And I think that's also pretty exciting from my outlook.
Yeah, I was very confused when I saw the Spiritborn actually only having the one weapon and still having that little box on the right side below the jewelry basically. And I was, for a second, I hoped that you could also dual wield and therefore also get some variety that way. But it's literally only the staffs, and then you have the quarter staffs and the
glaives.
And the glaives, right? So it's
and pole arms actually. Pole arms are also there.
Okay, so you share these three things then, but they're basically the same thing. It's just about the different implicit then, from what I've understood, right? It's not like you can actually mix and match some form of attack speed difference like we had with the focus main hand offhand versus
we don't know yet,
stuff,
but
right?
there might actually be stuff like, let's say in the glyphs or the paragons, for example, like Barb has that, where okay, you wield an axe, you get this, you wield a mace, you get that, and maybe there's also like some more distinction coming later in the paragons. But yeah, I think personally it's kind of cool that they made like a two-hand only class. It kind of goes well with the theme, I believe, and it just feels very cool having a two-handed weapon. To be honest, I like it. So that's amazing.
The other cool part about it is that the quarterstaff comes with inherent block chance or modifies block in some way. And that was something that when I was talking with Bjorn, Bjorn is like the lead class designer for Spiritborn. You saw him on some of our live streams if you tuned in. Bjorn's super great. Also, all the devs were phenomenal. I know we'll get into it later, but like top tier nerds, they had answers for every question that I had. Like they schooled me on lore. The people working on this expansion are like the best of the best of the best. But I was talking with them and I sat down and I realized, I was like, wait a minute. How does this class even benefit from block? Oh, wait, block is just the chance to block. And then the shield gives you damage reduction based off of your block chance. That's completely separate. Like that's a stat on the shield. And that's the only place that we've seen it thus far. So now that they're bringing block as just a concept to the game, and the quarterstaff will modify how block works for you, like definitely opens up places where like aspects can touch on your block chance and how block works. Your paragon can have nodes that say, bonus based off your block chance at the time, because even one of your skills gives you 100% block chance for a certain amount of time. And then you can use that to increase your damage. There's like an 8.6 multi on a two-hander right now if they don't change the numbers, which I'm not going to freak out about just yet. But like, I don't know, man, there's so much that they're opening up just by adding this class in and having it have to work in the coding logic of the game. And that's one of the things I'm more excited for, is what does this mean for the rest of the game and the other classes and what they get to do.
Yeah, so just to reiterate something that Macro just said. So you have the possibilities of changing the tags on your skills to interact with different things. So you're like customizing your character in terms of the actual build. But one thing that I saw a lot more, I mean, there must be other examples in Diablo 4, but nowhere near as many as I've seen on the Spiritborn class. It's like if you stack armor, there are ways to convert that to damage. If you stack block, there are ways to convert that into damage. So there are so many different possibilities that we've been screaming pretty much everyone in the community, except I think even the people that don't play the game very often, most people have wanted an expansion of the skill tree. We need a little bit more complexity than nothing. So we are getting more complexity, at least in the systems that we saw in the demo, where you can't just think about it as offense and defense. You have to think about it in terms of how do they actually connect with each other. To me, this is much more fun and much better for the game. And in talking to one of the devs about, I can't remember what topic, one thing that they said is they're not trying to keep Diablo 4 as simple as it is right now. They are trying to build some layers into it. I can't tell you what a relief for me it was to hear that from them for like the direction of the team. Because it is great to bring in the casuals, it is great to appeal to the masses, but Diablo 4 needs some more in a lot of its different systems, in my opinion.
Yeah, when I
don't.
go ahead, Woody.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to chime in about the complexity, especially of the skill tree. I know that a lot of people are upset at that, but I think it's fine to have the skill tree kind of like work as it does, as long as there's more complexity later on, right? And they tried to build that with the Paragons, but that was not really like, enough, I guess. We had like some seasons in the past, like season 2 with the vampire theme, where we had like, for example, the vampire powers, and that was like a really well-received season, right? Because you had like these extra powers that are basically just like 5 extra legendary aspect slots, right? But they were kind of cool. They had like varying costs and like potential in some combos. And, there was like some extra complexity added during that season at least. And then kind of like we didn't really have anything like it again. But, if they add more systems, not necessarily just like expand the skill tree, but, there's something else that comes, beyond the Paragons, beyond the skill tree. And, something like those vampiric powers, for example. I think they can definitely like open up the build diversity and make it more interesting for everyone. And without really like, shying away the casual players that log in, start a fresh season, and they see the skill tree. And I guess that's like one of the big strengths, that it's so welcoming with the skill tree. It's like, okay, you go down, category by category, and it is fairly simple. But then there's also still like this min-maxing you can do, and then there's other systems on top of it, which is very nice.
Yeah, at the beginning of D4, I was actually bummed out a little bit that it seems seemingly a little bit too easy. But when you then thought about it, it is actually, in my opinion, a very smart move, delaying that effect of, for example, when you first time open your skill tree in Path of Exile, right? Like maybe 2 or 5% of the people, or a very minuscule amount, goes like, oh wow, that's cool, but more than 90% just goes, oh no, I don't want to deal with this, right? And delaying that moment to a further later date, after people have already invested and gotten familiar with the game, I think was a very smart move. But as Woody just said, we need something on top. We've talked about this in the last podcast as well, like just one more little, not even one more, but maybe multiple other little systems that build on top of that. And they don't even have to be present at absolute level 1, right? They can come later. And I just hope that we're going to move more in that direction now, because I think it's just a smart move of actually getting or keeping players in your game, right? And I'm also, you said the skill tree system, you wanted to keep it how it is. I'm a little bit going forward in the topic list here a little bit, but we saw the screenshot. There were some skill points, and it showed 69 skill points. And
nice.
Exactly. And maybe that is actually the added complexity on top of everything else, right? If we have another layer of complexity added in a skill tree, we obviously also need some more passive skill points. How do you think about that?
So from what we've seen, what people have broken down, right, is the character was at max level at 60. It was like gold, and then it had 69 skill points. So theoretically, something is coming down the line. Whether or not that's what they were testing there or something that's going to be in the expansion, obviously, like none of us can like really know or speak on. But let's assume that it's just true. It's just real. We already know that they want to add more skills to each class's skill tree. And if you look at the skill tree of the Spiritborn, like if you go back down and look through it, the number of like modifying passives that kind of work for everything, as opposed to your bleed, crit damage, do 8% more vulnerable, like whatever it is, were significantly like bolstered. Like there was just more of them. And then on top of that, when you got down towards like the final nodes, the ultimate modifying passives was like its own skill tree, just kind of shooting off the side of the node. There was like 9 different options with 3 different paths to go down that just modified what happened when you used an ultimate skill. I'm expecting for us to see some of that kind of like retrospectively modifying what the current classes look like. And then on top of that, we literally would need more skill points for it to be like interesting that they would add more stuff. So I think that kind of coincides. I think it's coming. It makes sense. And my only fear is that it's just going to give us like a different spender on the other classes. And we're going to have to wait a long time before we see anything as cool as the Spiritborn skill tree.
The thing for me, even before going to the event and talking to the devs, which they have shared some of their like future plans with us that we cannot speak about today. But even before going in, think about what do we know about the expansion? Okay, we know how much it costs, and we know the release date, and we know that there's a Spiritborn class. In no universe do I think that that's all that they have for us. I was genuinely expecting there to be a bunch of other things, not just new additions to the game, but reworks of current systems. You can see that there's a lot of systems in the game that Blizzard is not happy with, and the reason why you know that is because they changed it 5 times during the course of the first year. For example, we're talking about, we think the level cap is 60, and then we're building something up after that. How many times have they tried to adjust leveling up? Like it used to be like a 140-hour arduous journey that nobody liked. So if they want to cap it at 60, was that the original cap of World of Warcraft? Seems like they're like drawing on inspiration that they've done in other games and making some changes. I'm also expecting systems that have had very little changes, like the Paragon system. The Paragon system, other than changing some multiplicative here or there, it really hasn't been iterated on at all. And the Paragon is like, it's kind of like an illusion, right? If you gave me, Macro, and Woody a planner, and you said, go make a Centipede Spiritborn in a locked room, you got 1 hour to do it, and then we presented it to Blizzard, the variance on the Paragon boards themselves and the glyphs that we took would be so minor. You could take any of our builds and swap out the Paragon boards, and it would have almost no impact because it's just an illusion of choice. You pick the couple legendary nodes that you need, you path to the glyphs, you pump the glyphs, and that's essentially it for almost every class. So this is all to say, I'm expecting there to be more announcements that Blizzard is kind of holding back about the expansion. We don't even know anything about it yet in the public eye. So I want to see what they've actually got.
Yeah, kind of same here as well. I mean, as you said, we know some things that unfortunately we cannot share, but yeah, there's like a lot of stuff that I think people are going to be excited about that I guess we'll hear soon. And we also don't know all the details. So I'm also excited to see like what exactly they will announce. But yeah, either way, there's definitely a lot more coming in the expansion. And this is like exactly what we alluded to earlier with like, for example, extra systems, extra progression, extra complexity, right? So this is obviously coming in the expansion. And I think anyone who assumes otherwise is just kind of like not really thinking enough, I guess. about what is going to happen in an expansion, right? As Rex said, they are reworking a lot of stuff. So
when it comes to reworking, Meg also touched on this a little bit. After seeing Spiritborn, I was actually a little bit shocked. I was like, okay, when I saw this, not only from a build maker perspective, but also just from someone who wants to log in and play the game, I was like, why do I want to play a different class than this? Like, what is the incentive going to be for me logging onto something else? Now, I'm quite sure the developers are aware of that. What do you guys think? Are they going to... Rex, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Are they going to get the other classes up to par? And how quickly do you think is that going to happen?
Yeah, so I mean, I think everyone is, and I don't know, I could be wrong. Like October could come and the statement I'm about to make could be completely wrong. And I don't know anything on this. I don't have insider info that's contributing to this. This is all just my own personal feelings. I'm not worried about the other classes at all, man. Cool. The Spiritborn is an awesome class. It's very, very cool. They've clearly put a lot of work into it. I don't think for 1 second they're going to leave behind the other classes. It would not surprise me if one of the other classes, I mean, Barb has ruled the world for so long. It would surprise me if Barb is still the strongest class on the expansion. I think there's a 0% chance that the other classes are just going to get left behind. They will continue to get cool stuff. There's a huge difference between will the classes be at the level of the Spiritborn, and how does it feel? Well, the Spiritborn feels really good. It's new, it's shiny, tons of cool mechanics. So it gives you this illusion that it's better, but I don't think for 1 second that Blizzard is just turning a blind eye to the other classes. I think that's a 0% chance.
yeah, I agree with that as well. So it's so easy to just kind of like make new builds, introduce some new uniques. They are reworking a lot of uniques now for Season 5. That alone will probably open up a lot of things that currently exist or maybe don't even exist yet. And suddenly, existing classes already have let's say a dozen plus kind of like, meta builds, I guess. Some better than others, but there's like certain ways to build, like let's say Bloodthirst, certain ways to build Bloodlands, and so on. Some of them are weak. But that is just like a tuning issue. And if they actually go back and rescale the entire game, bring like a new baseline of balance that we have seen with like the stat squish that is happening. So, they've lowered the numbers, the DPS is lower on the weapons, and we have lower levels now, and so on. So it seems like they're kind of trying to bring stuff down a bit to earth, but still trying to make like really cool and interesting effects that then you can build off of. And yeah, as you talked about, if they add more systems on top of that, then there's like an extra layer that kind of like branches out the builds, right? And then maybe you don't just have this one way of building a Bloodthirst Necro, but you have like the minion version, you have the non-minion version, you have the one with uniques, you have the one without, you have the one with whatever, right? And that's just Bloodthirst. And in the end, I guess they're definitely going back to this whole like idea of play your way kind of thing that I think they've been advertising at the start of D4. It's like open, a lot of choices. And yeah, of course, over time, the meta has kind of like, crystallized with, the best versions of a Bloodthirst build or the best version of a Twisting Blades build or whatever. But ultimately, there are still like all these like little choices you can make on the way if you want to. And the more persistence we get, the more of those choices you can make and definitely diverge from, the standard, settled meta and make something cool and unique, even for the existing classes.
Y'all are crazy. The only thing that's going to make you go back to playing the classes you've been playing before is feeling bad about buying cosmetics for them and feeling like you wasted your money. No. So I want to use an example here because everybody's going to. I know. I'm making a joke. Everybody who has played new classes to a game, that class is always going to enjoy the privilege of being designed in a space with everything that they've learned up until that point. We only now are getting basic skill builds because people felt bad about needing to put points into basic skills. And oddly enough, when the game first came out, Blizzard expected you to have a resource generator and a resource spender. That was boring. On the Spiritborn, and this is something that I commented on, which was like, your basic skill is good and it has a combo and it has a payoff and it initiates a system and empowers you. I never I almost didn't know what skill I was clicking, because I was using my basic skill into my spender, into my activated cooldown, into my basic skill, into my ultimate, into my spender, into my basic. Like, it was a perpetual flow of combat, and that's going to feel really, really good. But oddly enough, when the assassin and the druid were added to Diablo 2, people kept playing the sorceress. Why? Because they liked being able to play the sorceress, what it had available to it. They were comfortable on it. People like to feel good at what they're doing, and they want to feel like they're being efficient or effective. So people who pick up the class and it's too 5-head, it's too Giga Chad, there's too much stuff going on, they don't understand how to do the combos, they'll go back to a more simplified but enjoyable play style. People who have been like desperately trying to play like a really combo focused rogue and didn't feel like that was necessarily available for them, they're going to enjoy this play style. Anybody who's ever played a necromancer will just delete all of their previous characters, because they'll only be playing the Spiritborn, because it actually feels good and it moves fast and it does cool stuff. Rest in peace to my class. But like, it isn't the end all be all. But yes, it's going to be fun. Yes, you're going to see everybody play it. Yes, you're going to get sick and tired of the Spiritborn meta. You're going to hate only seeing build guides about it. But it's like a brand new thing coming in expansion. Obviously, everybody wants to play with a new toy. And it's just, the hype will die down and it'll get back to, a normal distribution of people's desired aesthetic in a high fantasy RPG like this.
Yeah, I'm also like you guys touched upon this a little bit here as well with the combo and build potential. Like there's what's the name? Combined strikes. I have that open right here. Each different basic skill you cast increases all of your damage by a certain number for 10 seconds. So not only are you getting a basic attacks build right from the get-go, but you're also getting a multiple basic attacks right from the get-go. And I've seen, for example, Woody's complete screen-filling AoE feathers build that was already very interesting. How are you guys feeling about the 5-head almost necessary to get something going on the Spiritborn? Has anyone tried even experimenting with a single spirit? Or have you always thought, I need to have double spirits to actually unleash the full potential of the class? And how did you feel about the complexity that this class brings in terms of making the build? Maybe Rex, you start us out with on that one.
So I think the complexity is just right, as we spoke about earlier. I think the complexity for everything else has been too low at this point. I'll tell you one thing that I'm specifically staying away from is when I got back, yes, people recorded videos of all the skills, all the passives. They went through the armory, this and that. They're missing the build defining uniques. But that is enough to get started to try to do like a single spirit or try to make some builds. I think that this is a complete waste of time. I think it's time that you have thrown straight into the garbage, because the build that we saw, I mean, we were sitting there at the lunch table with Bjorn, Spiritborn, the guy who designed the class. First of all, not only are we testing several build iterations early, there's a lot of things that we just haven't seen. So you're like trying to assemble like a Lego house with like only 5 of the 50 pieces, and you don't even have the right 5 pieces. They've actually been interchanged out. So conceptually, it's very cool. I think there will be certain benefits to going all one spirit, especially with some of the uniques that they describe that we can't talk about right now. We'll see how it plays out in the actual patch. But I think it's way too early to be theory crafting. You can, I guess, familiarize yourself with your class, but any conclusions that you draw right now will be pretty much completely worthless.
Rex, are you calling out the top 5 best Spiritborn builds videos that are inevitably going to be creeping out over the next 5 days? Yeah, don't do them like that, man.
People got to eat, I guess, but why someone would click the video and process it and think that that's actually going to be the guide on launch is beyond me, man.
Hold on, I gotta go.
I mean, I think it's not just
real quick.
Rex was wrong. Top 5 Spiritborn builds right there.
I mean, to be fair, I think this is not just the fault of the person clicking on the video. So, making such videos, I don't know, I haven't seen any of those. But it definitely gives me flashbacks of the open beta back in like last March or something, and for like the fall launch. And people making those like videos of like, okay, best build for Rogue, best build for the Root, or whatever, right? With like level 25. Yeah, and it's kind of like we're in a similar situation, right? Exactly as Rax has said, you can familiarize yourself with the class, you can try to understand the combos, the aspects. Like, there's certainly, like, there's also something that I disagree with heavily with Rax, which I think this is not wasted time. If I look back at pre-launch, when I was just like sitting here like 12 hours a day, devouring information about Diablo 4 for like, a year straight, basically, while I was still blasting a little bit of D3 or so. That certainly helped me when the game came out. I knew every skill by heart. I knew every single skill tree.
That's
I knew
because they
all the
didn't
aspects.
change anything.
No, it's just like, but the point is that this actually helped me tremendously to actually like, get into the game once we had the full launch, to quickly understand, okay, how does the Paragon impact it and the glyphs, and how do I make the paths on the Paragon boards? And at least from my perspective, I actually have a blast right now trying to theory craft the Spiritborn, even though it's like, 2.5 months away and we have only seen level 30. But, just like this whole understanding that you get of the general idea of the class. And we talked about, okay, you can mix and match, you can do pure builds. That was the original question. And the answer is definitely yes, right? You can do pure builds. But on the other hand, we don't know what comes later. Is there going to be enough power behind it? Maybe you can do pure builds until, I don't know, you're kind of like in like, let's say, pit 100, right? And then if you want to go the extra mile to like pit 140, then you might have to switch out the build and make it more complex or something. But either way, I think from the theory crafting perspective, it's very interesting right now. I've already like, just sat there, like, I had like 2 12-hour flights. I sat there, not doing anything but looking at the Spiritborn, in my flights and trying to understand, the skill tree, trying to learn every single passive. And it's just really fun doing that. And I think this will not be wasted time, even if like, some stuff is changing, the numbers are going to be tweaked, something is going to get nerfed. Yeah, who knows, right? But it's just, I think it's just very useful. So for like the preparation of when the game actually comes out, because no one is going to know anything. No one has seen the Paragon and probably won't. And, the interesting part about it is like, the first week, for example, right? When everyone's going to blast the Spiritborn, like who is going to make the best builds? Who is going to make those guides? And those are the people that will be the best prepared, that will understand everything really quickly because they have, put in the hours beforehand. If you just start on launch, then you're not going to have a clue. You have to learn all the basics that I already learned like 4 months ago, basically. So I think it's going to be very exciting to see what's going to happen on that end. But from the theory crafting perspective, it's really cool.
I think we could take the less hyperbolic stance that Rax was putting out there. It's more so calling out this concept of like making declarative statements about what this class is going to look like when the game releases, and then like holding the universe accountable for those declarative statements. Nobody knows what the best build is going to be. So somebody says this is definitely going to be the best build, take it with a grain of salt, and that grain of salt being that person cannot be correct. As such, when we walk into the game and it turns out that build isn't that good, don't then turn around and get mad at the devs like, oh, this was supposed to be great. The numbers that I saw were super big. Why is it different? Well, it's because the stuff that we saw was outdated. To Woody's point, everybody's going to be theory crafting this thing. And he is completely correct. Like, even if we walk into the game and it's like, whatever the attack is, this attack, they changed it so that like the multiplier is smaller, or the base damage is smaller, or this effect has a minimized size, or whatever. They add an element to it. It doesn't really matter what the change is. You at least had an idea of what it was before. And now you can say, like, with that understanding, I can then formulate an opinion about how good this thing will be. Let me go test that. But so this was like a long segue, but or it was a long trip away from the original question. Will there be pure builds? I think there obviously will be, right? But when you really look at the system of the Spirit Hall, you have your primary spirit that gives you your primary spirit's bonus and says all your skills are now this skill type. All your skills are now Gorilla. All your skills are now Big Burb. All your skills are now Godzilla Centipede. The secondary one tends to have a flavorful augment to what that kind of idea is. So like the big monkey says you can now have more resolve. Resolve says as long as you have a stack of it, you have 20% DR. And you could have more stacks of it. And if you have a certain number of them, you're now unstoppable. You don't need to use monkey powers to get resolve. You don't have to use the monkey spirit to get it. But it kind of feeds into the original concept, but modifies your things more fully. the thing that I saw was that I always felt better using a secondary spirit to augment what I was doing, because the primary spirit that I was using was lacking that ability. So like the burb gives you ramping critical strike chance until you crit, right? That's that one. It gives you ramping critical strike chance until you crit, and then you have 100% crit chance for 2 seconds. That one feels really good for leveling. It feels really good to be able to put onto a build that maybe doesn't have access to as much crit chance. But I don't see me going bird primary, bird secondary, because like it's like it doesn't really add to what the primary bird skills are attempting to accomplish. But I don't think there's realistically pure skills, only because if you look at any other class right now and you go, if I could add any skill tag to this that I wanted, would I use it on my build instead of what I'm currently doing? And the answer is typically yes. So I don't know. People are going to make them. I think that they'll be obviously weaker because they don't have access to as many tools as they could.
Before we move on to the next topic, obviously every time the Spiritborn comes up, feel free to talk about it. Your favorite spirit or spirit combination after actually getting your hands on. Maybe at the top of your head, Rex, you already know one?
And it's not because this one was just kind of the ruler of the demo that we played, but I think the one that I like the most is the centipede. I really like the idea of just poisoning and slowing and manipulating everything around me. It kind of feels like you enter the room and you're like the king of the jungle kind of there. I think that one. I think the eagle looks the best, like the little feather throwing with the blue lights flying everywhere. It just looks incredible. I think the demo didn't do the jaguar justice. Like, it's probably going to be that's one of people's favorites. It's got the massive attack speed. It was just so underpowered. I was just hitting the bosses over and over and over, and I'm like, well, I could just summon a centipede and one shot these guys. I think the gorilla is going to be incredible for hardcore. There's something very satisfying running around just doing big smash and nothing can kill you. Very, very satisfying. I'm still going to stick with the centipede, though, after the inevitable balance thing and nerf it. That's what I'm leaning toward starting as. I like the manipulation that it brings.
Woody, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of resonate with that. Like, just from the theme and like just the uniqueness of the centipede stuff, I really like it the most. It also has like this whole poison stuff that we are used to from the rogues, so obviously I like that. And also, like, you know, these kind of interesting new mechanics. For example, they combined poison with thorns, that are combined poison with crits. So there's like really unique new mechanics that's coming to the Spiritborn that you can try to play around. But also, like, personally, my favorite skill on the entire class is actually Stinger. That's the centipede like core skill. And the way that works is that it's just like a slam on the ground, very uneventful actually, but it hits everything on the screen that has any poison on them. So it's kind of like extending its reach to exactly the targets that you have already dealt damage to, basically. And it felt really fun to play around that, so I'm looking forward to that. You kind of walk into the room, you do your whatever poison attack, there's multiple ways of doing that, and then you just like Stinger, slam the ground, and that actually works, and that's kind of funny. I like that. For the race, though, I guess when it comes to like actually prepping and like what I know right now, I would probably play mostly Eagle themed, because I think Eagle is probably going to like kind of scale the speed the most, thanks to the mobility and thanks to the core skill, the Quill Volley. That seems very powerful. So this is currently what I'm aiming for, at least when it comes to like, you know, starting out in the expansion and just like blasting to max level and stuff.
There is a correct answer, and it is Big Winton. It is Big Boy Boss Man Monkey Winton. They just added Winston from Overwatch to the game. He even summons a protective circle around you, and he looks badass, and it's just awesome. More realistically, I think that if we're talking about what will be the best thing to start off with, just based off of the tools that it currently has, very much so like Bird primary with a lot of the mobility from Jaguar, and then just like slotting in the survivability from using like a poison basic says to me that you can just focus on doing primary damage, and even just like the life leech and the DR from using centipede skills is like enough to basically handle survivability across the board. There's just so much. You said that Jaguar underperformed, which, like, for single target DPS against bosses, I agree with that, definitely. The thing where I felt like Jaguar was insane was in Helltide. The Jaguar ultimate, for people who didn't really see it, you jump to the location, it does a damage attack. You have a 15% chance while your Jaguar is out that if you kill a monster with anything, it resets your ultimate cooldown. And then the next time that you jump, it does twice as many attacks, so it stays around for longer. And then when it resets, you do 3 times as many, stacking up to 4. So as long as you manage to kill a monster in an increasing time frame that your mobility / damage skill is working, it will reset and you can do it again. And that was insane. It was like the highest mobility. I just jumped out with my ultimate, kept moving forward, attacking monsters. It reset. I jump out with my ultimate again, just like time and time again. And that was nutty. I think that that's going to, like, hilariously overperform if nothing has really changed.
Macro is living the life, man. After playing
It's
Necro
so
for
good.
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
But seriously, like, to that point though, like, all of the mobility other than Soar was in Jaguar, because it had like 2 or 3 different mobility skills on top of the fact that your basic is also a lunging strike. Like, it was kind of gross.
We'll have to see how it again, like how it all changes. Like, I haven't like looked at any of the connections or the synergies in depth at the moment. But when I was sitting there looking at how it was built and some of the different combinations that were possible, I have a little bit of fear for the centipede builds, like the centipede as the main one. And the reason why is it seemed like a lot of things would activate, or a lot of things would be available to you if the enemies were poisoned. And I'm like, okay, so is it going to be better to go Jaguar, Gorilla, Eagle, something like that, and just simply find a very clever way to poison things? And if they're like, I was even thinking like, oh, what about like Andariels, for example? Does Andariels shoot out poison? Does that count as poison? And then am I going to unlock all of these other things? If someone else in my party poisons, then can I get all of these benefits from poison without actually speccing into poison? And if that becomes a thing, if there isn't at least one build that really rewards you from diving deep into poison, I'm a little bit worried about like the centipede-centric builds. So that's something I'm going to be looking for. If on the launch, if I get all these awesome passives, it kind of reminds me of like some of the sorcerer passives, right? If they're burning, you would be willing to take the fire bolt enchantment slot just to make your attacks burn, just to take these passives because they're burning, but the burning doesn't have anything to actually do with, 75% of the builds. I'm wondering if we're going to fall into that trap again with Spiritborn, where what's the easiest way to apply poison to the whole room, take all these passives, and then, I play something else.
Is that, So I agree. I hate when it's too simple. That's actually probably like one of my biggest first time playing the build critiques of the Spiritborn. I think it's actually too easy to figure out the puzzle. Like, your Spirit Hall says all of your skills now have this skill tag. Any other class to do that typically has to use an entire aspect slot to change a single skill to do this one different thing to activate this sub system of benefits. I think the Spiritborn is kind of like built almost too well. Like, it's too synergistic. But let's say it doesn't lead to like insane power. How cool is it that Andariel's Visage activates an entire subsystem of your build that you don't now need to spec into poison skills, but instead can use this uber unique to fundamentally change it? That's ultimately, I think, a very cool thing. The concern would be if that's just like too over dominant in the meta, right? Like, that would be the problem, not just the reality of it, right? Or do you think it's just like bad if it does that altogether?
No, I mean, I literally live for interactions like that, and I'm even more okay with it because of the fact that it's an uber unique. I love stuff like that. Like, there's no better feeling. Like, you can see it in all these different games. There's no better feeling than when you're playing Diablo 2 and you get that jaw rune to drop, and now you have an enigma and it feels completely different. Or when you drop the mage blood or the headhunter in PoE, and life is actually just completely different from there forward. If you get an Andariel's, it unlocks this ultimate build where you get all the poison stuff essentially for free, and you go the other spirits, and now you're just frying. I've got nothing wrong with that. The nature of my comment was not that I don't like that happening. It's that I'm afraid for centipede-centric builds. So I guess the main takeaway that I'm trying to deliver here is I hope that in the design, in the end game, that there is a reward for going very, very heavy into the poison, because if it just turns into a stupid put the firebolt enchantment slot, take all the burning stuff, and burning never matters, we've lost an entire archetype that could have been there that would have been one of my favorites.
I think it's like way too early to really talk about this level of detail here with the builds. Like personally, and after looking at all the stuff that I explained earlier, like I don't think there's anything wrong or anything to worry about here with the poison builds. They do seem like to have very strong scaling in the late game, and there might be also ways to just play like a supportive poison, kind of like firebolt on a Sork, but there might also be ways to like pure poison with all that and Ariels, and I have no worries about it. So I guess the rest is just like tuning on like some aspects or some skills that really matter there. That can always be changed.
Yeah, I can definitely see both sides to that. Andariel's visage comment. What was, Woody? You probably know this. What was that helm that was also giving you the other tag on top of that would directly?
Yeah, it's called Harmony.
Harmony. There we go.
Yeah.
That's directly fighting against that helmet slot against Andariel's, right? So we would kind of already have a solution or kind of like an alternative to that mythic in the future. I hope that's going to give another solution to Andariel's, right? It's maybe not as strong, but maybe just get that build for the people that don't have access to mythic uniques earlier on, an option to play that build that you can
Honestly,
play
this Harmony unique helm, yeah, it seems very crazy. Just like looking at like from the perspective of what we know about uniques right now, looking at season 5 uniques, for example, that we have seen like a few previews of, like looking at this Harmony helm. So basically what it does is it gives you an extra skill tag based on your minor spirit hall, so you can now have 3 different animal spirit tags and you get, I think, 50% extra bonus damage for each tag. So you guys get like a insane amount of damage multiplier on your helm. Plus it has pretty decent stats, it looks like. So it seems like something like that is clearly outperforming something like Shaco and Andariel or so anyway, unless you specifically make a build around Andariels, I guess, which may or may not happen. But it definitely looks like some very powerful item, and it's fine, they can like include some powerful uniques, and we have seen some other uniques that I've previewed. For example, the basic attack stuff, like we talked about, or like Macro mentioned this earlier. There's like, the built-in, combo potential already for the basic attacks, and now they also make like an item that actually allows you to play like a pure, like a basic attack build right from the get-go, right? If you get that stuff, then, or like the squatter stuff, then you can make that basic attack build right from out of the box, basically, that, for example, we previously didn't have until like very recently in Diablo 4, where basic attacks were just always useless in terms of DPS, with some exceptions maybe. And now we're gonna get delivered a package of, okay, you can play this core skill and this core skill and this one, and also there's like these other bunch of skills, and there's also different ways of scaling each of them, and there's also all these basic attacks that you can either use as a supporting skill or as a pure DPS skill, and then you can probably play each of those basic attacks as a build defining skill, right? So it seems like there's like just so many build options that come out of the box with the Spiritborn based on what they have learned in the past 4 seasons, and I think that's really amazing. Like, if you're gonna launch, and it's gonna be like 50 different versions of all kinds of builds, and I think it's gonna be really cool.
Yeah, I think everyone agrees that we're really looking forward to that part and exploring that and actually getting the hands on. I'm very curious how long the line at Gamescom is actually going to be. I'll definitely try to get there early and see if I can somehow get in front of the line there and get my hands on the Spiritborn to play that as soon as that's the case. For the next topic, the co-op endgame activity and our wishes or ideas for that. We have briefly talked about it in the past about the raids and stuff like that, I wanted to get your ideas or wishes for the co-op endgame activity here. Have you thought about it more in detail, about it being mandatory to have other players in the group, or co-op being a mandatory factor here? And what are your ideas? Do we go more into the World of Warcraft rating section where it's like where you need to do a couple of things right and then you're good? Or do we go into the Lost Ark section where you have to know 10 billion interactions by heart and hopefully do them in the correct order? What are your wishes or ideas going into the co-op endgame activity, whatever that is going to be in the future when the Vessel of Hatred expansion releases?
I have breaking news that's going to drastically change everybody's opinion on this thing. I went into the emotes thinking that I would find cool new emotes and I'd be able to show them off on stream, like cool new effects and stuff. And there's a whole section of your emotes all the way on the right that have whatever it's called, like Citadel marker icons that you're able to add onto your fast wheel, meaning that like theoretically you're going to have to, just like in WoW, like indicate in real time targets or objectives or different things. They were like different colors and they just kind of looked like a star. There wasn't like, you know, the teal square and the moon and the heart and all of that, or the skull. But the reason why I think that that's interesting, and obviously like there's only 5 people who are like, oh, cool. I like the concept that they believe that players will need tools to be able to communicate in game, to be able to accomplish whatever tasks or whatever you're doing in the raid. I don't have so much like, oh, this is what I hope it is. This is what I hope it is. Because whatever it is going to be drastically different because, you know, they have to fit it into an ARPG. But I really want to touch on that question of, is it okay that this completely online multiplayer game has content that has the audacity to say you need to play in a group? Is that okay? I actually think it's wild that we would even be having that conversation, honestly. The multiplayer game has to have at least something that groups do, because why else am I even playing a multiplayer game? Like, sincerely. I get that we want to have a parity between single player and group play. I'm not disagreeing with that concept. But at some point, it's got to be okay, and we don't have to like clutch our pearls that there's multiplayer content in this multiplayer game.
Yeah. So for me, when I look at, so I've done a lot of rating in different games, and so I'll tell you something from Lost Ark that I don't like, and I'll tell you something from WoW that I do like, and then some other things about this endgame activity. So for Lost Ark, there is a crazy level of toxicity in the Lost Ark rating unless you have a set group. It's actually unreal. So you queue up for a boss. You have however many it is, 8 people. They'll kick you out if you are not the right base. And then when you get in there, then you have to like all agree to fight the boss or all agree to leave. And there's lockouts and things like this. And when you have 8 people like random and you're trying to explain things, the level of toxicity when you wipe like once or twice, even if someone says, I've never been here before, let me learn, is crazy. So I would hope in whatever system Blizzard has for like how you can leave and how you can complete the bosses, they've taken a look at how it feels to be a normal player trying to do these in Lost Ark. And as the difficulty ramps up, so does the toxicity. That's something that I'm hoping to avoid. One thing that I really like that World of Warcraft did, which enables you to use, one of your questions was, do you care like how simple it is or do you care how complex it is? I like what World of Warcraft does, where you have like normal and heroic versions, where everybody can experience the content. It's not as difficult. And then, I don't know, the Uber Diablo in the final level of heroic rating or whatever the hell it's called, I think it should be damn near impossible if you want to clear it on heroic. And you need like a team, a really, really good teams synergize, play very well for multiple minutes to win. That would be kind of my dream. So there's something that I'm hoping for and something that I'm hoping that they avoid.
Yeah, from my perspective, usually I play a lot of like solo self-found with like the occasional grouping for like, boss rotations and stuff. But I'm just like more of a solo guy these days, I guess, when it comes to RPGs. And personally, I don't like the outlook too much that this is like only a group system. Actually, someone in my chat said that during Rax's interview, it was confirmed it can be soloed. Is that true? So,
I asked them the question. I'm not sure if they 100% confirmed it, but I brought up the fact that we definitely need it to be, or I would really like it to be soloable. I don't know if they gave us a 100%. Okay, my chat is saying that yes, he 100% confirmed it.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay, so there we go. So that's kind of interesting because usually if you have like, it's kind of like, let's imagine like a WoW raid, right? There's like big bosses and there's a bit of trash in between, and then you have to do like play mechanics, you have to be in certain places at certain times with multiple people and whatever, right? And okay, and like in WoW they have like this scaling system of like, okay, you can have 20 people, 15 people, whatever, at least for the non-mythic difficulties. But in Diablo, it's kind of strange because you don't have anything like that, right? You don't have any very complex bosses where you have to coordinate and these kind of things. And I think it would be kind of like a kind of novelty here to actually make like a forced 4-player raid where you need to have, at least for most fights, right? Some people doing certain things while other people doing other things. And if you then make it soloable, then it just sounds like, okay, we're going to get like a bunch of punching bags again as bosses. That, okay, you play around some of the big hits and the mechanics or whatever, but there's nothing like, strategic too much behind it. But maybe they're going to surprise me. So on the one hand, yeah, I would like it to be soloable, and I guess it sounds very nice. On the other hand, for example, they're introducing mercenaries, and mercenaries could be kind of like the equivalent of like a party, for example, for that system. Maybe it's like, less useful than like having a real player. But for example, if you have multiple difficulty tiers, then you could say, okay, for the easy tiers, at least you can do that. And you still have this whole like mechanical group play, basically. But either way, I'm kind of excited what they're cooking. I think it could be really amazing. Yeah, I personally love like fighting big bosses, and if there's like enough to it, then this can be really fun. Even if it's like just like another mega dungeon. I have this picture in mind of like Naxxramas from WoW. They have like this 4 wings. There's like 3 bosses in each wing, and then you unlock the extra boss at the end or something. Like if you do something like that, and there's actually like this kind of like mega dungeon, you spend multiple hours, many hours in a week, for example, playing through it, coming back, continuing, or something like that. I don't know. This could be really amazing if there's like badass boss fights. I think it all depends on the tuning in the end, I think.
One thing that I'll say, kind of in Blizzard's defense, I guess, is I would not envy being the developer of that system, because I think unless you do an extremely good job, the solo people can come in and it works for casuals, and it works for the blasters, and it's challenging, and it's rewarding, and it fits in perfectly. I think people are going to complain. I think they're going to have to get a lot of things very, very... Hi, Callie. I see you. Yes, I played with you twice already. How many times do you have to play? I think I do not envy their position. I would not want that job. So I'm going to try to keep that in mind when it comes out. If it's even decent, I'll give them big credit, because I think that this game mode is going to have a bullseye on it, and I think I can just see the complaining from months away.
To that exact point, like I want to use Infernal Hordes as like our newest cultural touch point. They put out this new roguelite system. It immediately got like a ton of backlash. 1, like it wasn't good enough. 2, it took too long. 3, it felt like it wasn't like interesting enough. Like it wasn't challenging. But on the other side, it felt like you couldn't do it on certain builds. And based off the conversation that we had with them, from the season 5 PTR, it's getting a pretty sizable overhaul to like how valuable is it for the player's time. And when Woody just said, what if it's a raid that you do over the span of the week, you come in, you progress it a little bit further, you get to this checkpoint, you get to this boss, like could we see something like that in Diablo 4? Made me incredibly excited. I've been saying for a very long time, I wish that this was World of Diablo, and I get mocked in everybody else's chat every single time. It doesn't change how I feel. It's 2024. We're playing an always online multiplayer game. Everybody wishes that world bosses were more challenging and more interesting, and you show up with a random group of people and you can't really talk to each other. Like you can't really be toxic to each other. but everybody's like, oh, it's like not engaging enough and the rewards aren't good enough and I don't feel like I'm having a cool experience. The moment that this content comes out and people start having the reaction of like, whatever, just like absolutely shitting on it because it had the audacity to try something different in an ARPG, I also would not envy them. And I'm good, as long as it's good and they're trying to make it engaging and interesting, I'm going to be on the front lines of like, shut up and just play the game and just enjoy something for once in your life. Because like this could be heinously cool, and it would just be sick to do something else in an ARPG other than clear an entire screen with one attack.
Yeah, I think it's also.
Yeah.
I think
Keep
it's
going.
okay. I think it's also really like I'm 100%. I agree on this. I mean, we see it in all the other RPGs. Yeah, Path of Exile has iterated on their systems for the past 10 years or so. Every time they bring something out, they give us something. Well, it's 50-50. It might be cool, it might be awful, but then again, after like a week or so, it's fixed, it's playable at least, then it goes away, they work on it in the background, and then they present it to you, and it's suddenly awesome, and you can't even remember how it was playing without it. And I really like that Blizzard is moving towards, and Diablo is moving towards, try it out, see how it works, and then iterate on it and make it better. Look at Helltide. Where did we start with Helltide? Where is Helltide now? I think everyone here loves Helltide at this point. I am having a blast in Helltide, and I just hope that it's going to be the same concept where we try out something and then improve it over the course of the time is also going to happen with the raids. Obviously, it's going to take its time, but I'm very much looking forward to something that Woody said as well. I really just want something where I can maybe solo it and have a completely different experience in terms of the difficulty than when I choose to do it with 3 or in maybe even 7 other people for a total of 4 or 8 groups. Maybe there's going to be some sort of difficulty selection tool, and maybe it's the party size, right? Maybe if you go in solo, well, you can't be at same spots at the same time. You can't go and take the cube and put it on the pedestal while also tanking one slam on the other side of the arena, right? But as soon as you go and do that with 2 or 3 or 4 people, maybe that is going to increase the difficulty, not in terms of numbers, but in terms of complexity of the mechanics, right? I hope we're moving into some sort of that direction. And I also said this multiple times already. I do not envy them in their current situation because everyone has high expectations, and I don't know how to meet at only half of them, right? It's gonna be a very tough balance.
I guess the main thing to kind of remember here is that, you know, we have the option to introduce difficulty settings, right? There's like tiers of the pit, there's tiers of nightmare dungeons and whatever, world tiers. And, you know, you can just make it accessible similar to WoW raids where you have like, you know, you have like 4 or 5 different difficulties and there's just something for everyone, right? And some people will slowly progress through the higher difficulties with their guild. And it can be similar to that as well. I mean, why not, right? So maybe there's like some, you know, hyper difficult mode where you try it solo, basically, just by, you know, virtue of not having extra people that do damage and do stuff while you're busy doing other stuff. But yeah, I mean, maybe you can solo like, you know, the heroic version, but you can't solo the mythic version. But I guess what it comes down to is like, what do we get out of it? And as long as there's, you know, maybe if it's like, let's say a weekly lockout, let's say, right, like the bonus reward from world bosses, we already have that kind of, right? It's not nothing big, you know, but it's nice. You go there, you kill a world boss the first time in the week, you get some extra goodie, like, you know, why not? And if it's somewhere along those lines where it's like not mandatory to even do it at all, for example, or at least not mandatory to clear it on the highest difficulty, maybe just like, you know, getting less nuts out of it, or, you know, you progress a bit slower or whatever, right? I think that would be fine. Then you can, you know, potentially make the highest difficulty of it like crazy if you want. Just literally like, you know, a trophy clear, so to say, that doesn't maybe add more rewards to it. And then you kind of like stagger the rewards down a little bit with the difficulties, and there you go.
Do we think that the D4 community has responded well when they've added trophy content? Like our examples are Abattoir of Zir tier 25 and currently Pit 200. I think that now that we've been in the pit for long enough, the community in general has like found out that like not every single build is meant to do every single thing. Not every single player is meant to clear all content. But do you think that we would respond well to, oh, if I do my weekly clear on hyper heroic mythic level, I get a chance at a cool pet, because now pets are in the game, right? Like they could basically just add pets to everything. It could be you clear this, you get the cool angel halo pet, whatever. Do you think people will take that well if they feel like they can't do that in a solo fashion? Like, do you think they would ask the devs to capitulate and change it?
Yeah, I actually asked that question because I had a lot of trouble understanding why they nerfed tormented bosses by 30% HP. And I was for a long time trying to get to the root cause of that problem, or why everyone was complaining that they weren't able to kill the tormented bosses.
It's a very simple explanation.
What is it, Woody?
You're gonna get to it? You're gonna get to it? No.
I mean,
yeah, it's because it's the season journey.
Yes, exactly. It's like
Yes.
people said I don't care about the tormented bosses, but I need to kill them for my seasonal journey, and that was that as the chat was like, yes, I only do them because of seasonal journey. For me, I don't even know what the seasonal journey is. I complete it or don't. It's not present for me. But I think if it becomes mandatory even in that sense of a seasonal journey, then people have a problem with it when they can't defeat it or complete it. So even if you attach a pet to it, that's basically also almost kind of the seasonal journey, or is it not?
So, all right. Okay. So there's a lot of like philosophical ideas here. So when you make this like pinnacle content, like I think as you and Woody are alluding to, if you put it as part of the basic little journey that people need to do to get their reward every season, that's not a very smart idea, right? Because a lot of people can't do that. So that's fine. But a different philosophy that I've kind of heard a little bit of this as a content creator in different games, which makes no sense, is people say, I don't want to try and I don't want to play very much and I want to get everything. This doesn't work in video games, just like it doesn't work in anything in life, right? If you want to be an Olympic skier, the only way you become an Olympic skier is by skiing 10 hours a day for 15 straight years. And then they say, no, Rax, you're the one who doesn't get it. I play games for fun, so I don't have to train to be an Olympic skier. And I say, okay, so you're a game designer. Let's flip the script here. If you're designing a game and the difficulties ramp up, how would you design it so there isn't an additional reward for doing the higher difficulties, or at the minimum, at least a leaderboard? And then the response I get is, Rax, I don't care about that argument. I want everything for nothing. Not everybody says this, but a lot of people believe this. The simple fact of the matter is, there needs to be an incentive or a reward or chase items to try for. However they want to build that system is fine. If Blizzard says, we don't want to lock these certain uniques to the Uber bosses because then casuals can't make the build, fine, okay, I could go with that. But then they better do something like Maxroll said, where if you kill Uber Diablo on the hardest version, he has a 1 in 100 chance to drop himself as a pet. You have mini Uber Diablo as a pet. So, or something, or a title, or a mount that isn't an ugly, bloody horse, which is the same horse that you get for PvPing for 5 minutes. There needs to be an incentive. There needs to be a chase for all players. It's not just for the blasters. Sometimes putting in chase items can take a very casual player to whatever you want to call it, an average player, or an average player to a blaster, some kind of carrot on a stick to chase for. I am so sick of the arguments about I want everything for nothing on the easiest difficulty and I better have the same odds as everything. I think it's just complete nonsense.
We're just like we're swinging at a lot of people in the community here, but it's it is inherently true in a game that the purpose of it is to give near endless chase and personal feelings of progression. World of Warcraft is a great example. There was the Insane title. You don't know somebody who had the Insane title. I was one of the many people who, it literally took me so long working on the Insane title that before I got it, they nerfed it so that it was easier to get the Insane title, and then I stopped caring about it entirely. I spent like a year working on this thing. It required you to get like every single reputation up to Exalted, which required you to have 2 opposing factions both at Exalted, and the only way to accomplish that was to sit in Booty Bay and farm this one particular NPC who had a very long spawn time, because the negative impact from killing it outweighed the positive, or the positive outweighed the negative. It was insane. I worked on it for a year. It was like one of the coolest things I was going to accomplish after the Seeker, and whichever one was you have to do all the quests in the game. I also did that one. But these were awesome. What did I get? A little title above my head that when I walked, I was an Alliance player. So when I was hanging out in Stormwind, everybody knew how big of a Johnson I had because I had these titles.
Alliance?
I don't know. Of course, I was playing a Warlock back in the day. The only good options were either Gnome or Orc. Orc had a bonus to your pet damage. Gnome actually had bonus to your primary stat. It was the only... Leave me alone, okay? She was cool. Her name was Ula. That's a Twi'lek dancer from Jabba the Hutt's little harem palace. Look, I'm a big nerd. The point of the thing that I'm saying, though, is that while I wasn't necessarily as tuned into the discourse around World of Warcraft, I was an avid fan. There was no conversations about it's bullshit that anybody else accomplished something and they got something out of it. Like, raiding was inherently you accomplished something and you got the thing, and then you got to have the status of it. And that is important to some gamers, and I think it needs to be available in this game as well. Because at the end of the day, everybody walking around with whatever their personally transmogged gear is without titles or cool effects or a cool pet or whatever. I don't know how cool you are, and I can't aspire to be as cool as you are because you're just walking by in random gear. And I think that's sorely lacking from Diablo 4. And I would like for them to stop making everything completely uncool that you accomplished it at the end of the day. Like, it doesn't matter that you killed a tormented boss, because of course you did. You know what I mean? Like, it's called it's a level 200 boss. It should be super hard to kill. Yes, remove it from the season's journey, and then people don't feel the FOMO. It can be done smarter. But the base game shouldn't change how it can reward players just because some people are like, oh, I didn't get every single thing done in the season's journey, even though I got the reward from it already.
Yeah, I have to I totally resonate here with you guys. It's insane. When I remember the first time I saw a fully T2 geared Thunder Fury warrior sitting in Orgrimmar on his epic mount. It was
on top of the mailbox, so you couldn't miss him.
Nah, he was actually on top of the bank, right? Where all the cool people.
Yeah.
Right? He wasn't that much of an asshole, right? And I saw that guy with 13 years old, and I went and got my mom to show her. And it's incredible if you see something like that. Obviously, with transmogs and stuff like that, it is not possible to have something like this. But what it did to me was I wanted to be that guy. Obviously, with 13, it's a little bit different. Now we're all a little bit older than that. But I think
now our feelings have just raised. We want to be that guy even more now that we're grown.
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but at least
a blaster was born.
Yeah, exactly. That was the moment. If I look back to it, yeah. And it's, I understand how people want to have everything in the game available to them, but I think the tormented bosses also showed exactly those people that are like, no, I don't want to super min-max, I just want to have everything. I think it showed these people that if you go and try a little bit harder for the tormented bosses, the journey is actually gonna not only be much more fun, but way more rewarding, as if you were just being handed the thing that you wanted to have. I do hope that the tormented bosses have accomplished that. And I hope we can get into the next stage with having that same thing. Maybe even just wings or a mount, or even Uber Diablo as a pet. attached to the next game mode that is just around the corner with expansion coming up. I'd be super happy about this.
Yeah, I think one thing to also remember here is that as the seasons go by, Blizzard is implementing like basically a new gameplay system every season, right? So we had AOZ that became Pit. We're gonna get Infernal Hordes now. We're gonna get the raids in the expansion, and then it's gonna be something in season 7. And there's in the end there's gonna be like 10, 15, I don't know, 20 different things just to do that can progress a character, right? And everything you talk about right now with the raids might just be completely irrelevant because some people might just not like it, and that might be okay. Maybe there is no exclusive reward, there's no extra progression step you gain from it. It's just there. You get something cool out of it. If it might be like more rewarding than the typical blasting session for like a few hours, let's say, right? If you look at the reward curve, like maybe the raids are here, but you can only do it once in a week, and then everything else like Helltide is here, and if it's like a one-time thing for a week or whatever, if that is how it works, then it doesn't really matter if it's a bit more rewarding and people skip it and just do more Helltides instead. So, I think this whole conversation here is kind of like irrelevant as long as there's nothing exclusive tied behind the rewards of this new raid system. And then they can do whatever they really want and not really care about what anyone says. As long as they make cool boss fights, I'm in, And not everyone wants to do cool boss fights. Some people just want to blast Helltides, and that's fine. So, that might be just how it goes.
I don't know if I agree with anything that you just said. Like, if the raids are here's some cool boss fights, they offer no good rewards. Go ahead and kill them. See you next week.
I didn't say they offer no good rewards. I said they might be slightly more rewarding than any other thing you can do for that week. Until you reach the point where you have cleared it. And then it's like, you don't have to feel bad for not going into the raid for a week.
But didn't you say they offer nothing exclusive? You can just get whatever you said they offer nothing exclusive. So you can just blast Helltide if you want all day, and that gives you the same stuff. Like,
yeah, but the point was that, if let's say you have to blast 4 hours of Helltide, where you could clear the raid in 2 hours for the same reward, for example. That was my point.
Right. So I think there should be I don't agree with that. I think there should be stuff in the raids that's awesome and makes you want to go do the raids. What Woody said is still applies. If you don't want to do the raids, then don't go do them. Go do Helltides all day. That's fine. But I wouldn't, I'm designing the raids. I better not put anything exclusive or really cool in here, because then the guy who blasts Helltide all day will feel left out. If that's how you design the game, the game's going to implode. I don't agree with that. I think there needs to be cool stuff in the raids.
Okay, I'm not saying that it shouldn't be like, titles and, wings or whatever, right? You can literally have like, let's say 4 different tiers of difficulty, and then you get like, a blue wing, a red wing, a golden wing, and a silver wing or something, for each of the tiers that you clear. And, the silver one is like the highest one. No one can do it besides like, the 1% or something. That will be okay. But in terms of like, what you talked about, like making a build, gatekeeping people from playing a certain build that they want to play or something, I think there should be nothing exclusive to that if you force people into co-op, for example, or even force people into like very difficult content at certain times in a week, for example, right? Imagine you start a season late, like a month in, and there's like certain exclusive rewards that you can only get in a raid that you're just a month behind on, and you can't even make the build that everyone else is playing because you just can't get the drops or something. There could be catch-up mechanics and whatever, but it's going to complicate things, I guess. But, cosmetic rewards, sure. And I don't know, if there's like, kind of forced raids, then I think they have to be at least very careful with what kind of actual gameplay rewards they put.
There's to very quickly get a hand on this ball, the question comes down to, is it okay if the content is better for getting actual gear or not at the end of the day? I want everyone to know how awesome I am. I've completed the raid. I'll take my cool Halo. Is that fine, or does it need to be also there's like exclusive gear to it? Like, are we going back to only Duriel drops mythic uniques? I think that's like that's the crux of the argument, right? Can it just be cosmetics and cool stuff and just proves how cool I am, or does it need to be gear as well? Because the moment that's gear as well, nobody who disagrees with the content can be happy about it. Like, it's just impossible. If they can never go do it, they can never get the gear, they never get to play the game that they bought. Because people didn't buy into an MMO, forcing that aspect onto them now, I think would be a very bad choice. If it's just that doing the raid on the hardest one, at the end of it, you get a screen of gear, like a screen of random item drops, I think that's a good enough reward where it's like, holy shit, I did the coolest stuff ever. I beat the hardest boss. I'm going to have to do 10 trips back to town to pick up all the loot. I think that's fine. But it's, does this unique item only drop in the raid? Then you start to have issues, right?
I think we're mixing two ideas. So one idea is who should be able to do the raid and clear the raid and reap rewards of the raid. The second concept is how godly and how exclusive should doing the raids be, the rewards within the raids. So to the first point, I think everyone should be able to do the raids, which is why we talked about having different difficulties, right? I think everyone should get in there. I think everyone should be able to see almost all, if not all, the content without having to look up a build guide. I don't have to go to Maxroll. Whatever you threw in there, you can get in there. The normal stuff is real easy. You can see some basic mechanics. And again, diving into the second point a little bit that Macro is talking about, there can be exclusive rewards to raids. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as there is a difficulty that gets people within the raids. So you're asking me specifically, what would I do? I would put cosmetics and I would put new rewards in there. To Woody's point, if you don't want to do raids all day, you do the raids until you get on normal. It's very easy until you get the one unique that you need. And another thing to understand is Blizzard has said that they kind of like the buddy system within their systems. One of the problems that they have right now is with Nightmare Dungeons. The only way that you get Glyph XP is in Nightmare Dungeons. And some people hate it. They do it, but they hate it. You could have a buddy system where, okay, you want to go do the raids? You can get these exclusive uniques. You don't want to do the raids? You could also do the tormented bosses or something. That way you aren't forced to do it. But if you don't put anything cool and exciting within the raids themselves, I would consider the game mode a fail for everybody. It's a fail for everybody. The casuals and the blasters. Most people will not consider it a good enough experience just to see a cool boss and kill it, because this is an ARPG. It's about replayability. If you don't put a reward attached to that replayability, it's like a movie. And we're not doing a movie here. We're not playing an MMO where it's incredible to kill Illidan one time. Those are my feelings on it.
Yeah, I think we said it very well here when we said we don't want to be in their shoes when it comes to making that decision here, because it's like nearly impossible to cater to all the different types of players and make all of them happy. I'm very curious how they're going to solve that, and really looking forward to more information on that.
It's probably going to be something completely different from anything we've discussed.
It's just going to be like a hard dungeon, and like at the end it's like time based, and we're going to be like, oh man, hey, we really talked a while on that podcast about this, huh?
and just in case anybody is wondering, me, Woody, and Macro, we don't know. I don't know anything about the raids.
Oh yeah, so no, we didn't get to see any. Like, I'll just straight up tell you, we legit didn't see it.
Or even talk about it. Like we don't have the insider info on the raids. We don't know. That's why none of us agree on anything.
I mean,
I did think because there were 4 of us going out there, I did think we were going to play it. Like straight up, I did think that was going to be a part of it.
I didn't, but the reason why I didn't is I asked them ahead of time. I said, "Are you flying 4 of us out to do raids?" And they said, "No." I'm like, "Okay, well,
all right.
I guess I'll go jump off a cliff. I guess."
That's fine.
With Soar, yeah.
With sword,
yeah,
best skill.
Oh no. Okay, well, you just said it there, Rex. Your trips in general. I've been in the streams. I've saw all the CrowdStrike influence on all of your guys' demise there. How were you guys feeling? Start the hanging out with everyone, the Xbox Center in Seattle, and just meeting everyone in real life. What do you guys have to say about that?
I feel like we all have like 1,000 stories about each thing. Do we just want to like maybe like more quickly go around on each concept? Because I want to start on the Xbox Studio, because that was insane to be like behind the scenes and see everything and how cool it was and how much it sucks to be on that stage live. Holy, it was like 4,000 degrees up on that stage. I had so many lights on it in a completely black room.
Yeah, so starting with the Xbox Studio, I guess this is already kind of deviating from the topic, but the first thing that I want to say about the Xbox Studio is how genuinely nice all the personnel were. We walked in, there was a ton of food. There was a giant Xbox fridge where when you opened it, it made the Xbox noise, and it's just got infinite everything. Another thing is, it's something that most people won't care about this, but I'll speak to it anyway because it needs to be said at least one time. The quality of their stage, the quality of the presentation, like people are endlessly typing, which honestly, I'll be honest, I kind of agree with. Oh, the art is so stupid, the lore is so stupid. Right. I get it. You just want to see gameplay, you just want to blast. But I'm talking about the actual. I'm talking about, yeah, I see that, Macro. I'm sorry, the truth hurts sometimes. But the quality of the production, it looks like they're launching a spaceship. They have all these awesome cameras. They practice so much. They min-max all these different things. I really appreciated the effort and the care that they had in order to make everything work. They set up a bunch of stations for us. They had all the tools and the resources that we needed to succeed. So from the Xbox Studio perspective and everyone that was involved, I really appreciated it, how they treated me. I felt like a king, even though I'm not a king. So they made me feel awesome.
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. So what Rex explained is really cool. And yeah, I mean, it was just like also amazing sitting in that room. Okay, at least for me, I had like the best streamer room there. I posted a picture on X, if you want to see that. I took a picture of what the room looked like from behind the scenes. But there was also like this incredible studio with like 10 lights around me at the ceiling, and then there was a cam, and the microphone, everything was set up, and I walked in. That was really cool. And I definitely felt like a professional for the first time in my life. So that's not like a king, but like a professional for 2 hours.
Better word for it, yeah.
Yes.
They had a dog as well. They had a dog.
Oh, he's a little corgi named Carl.
Yeah.
Carl and I were best friends. I spent more time with Carl than pretty much anybody.
Yeah, that was also amazing. Yeah, so generally like very professional, very like I walked in there. I came too late actually because I missed my first flight when I went there. I kind of just arrived directly in the studio when everyone was already like chilling out, and they had to like re-record the announcement and stuff like that because it just arrived at that moment. And they was just like, okay, let's do it again. And like we were done in like 10 minutes or something. It was cool. So definitely very well received, and it was very enjoyable. And also, of course, later on when we had done the show and we were like, getting ready for dinner, and then we were like all kind of like going together with the devs and like hanging out at dinner and just talking about everything with the game. Like I learned a lot of really cool stuff about the original development of Diablo 4, for example, and behind the scenes stuff. That was really fun.
To like exactly segue off of that, the idea of the developers. So like obviously we all get a lot of opportunities to speak with the developers. It's a privilege that we get to enjoy. This was sitting down with, so like Brent, like the lead exec on the expansion itself. We were eating lunch, and it was before we were going to be doing the live streams. And I was like, hey man, I have like a lot of lore questions, RIP to Rax not caring about the dialogue, but I have a lot of lore questions that like my chat has asked me. I've always really cared about, like D2 is my game. We're going back to my game. Like, can I sit down with you and just kind of like grill you? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And maybe 5 or 6 questions in, he's now teaching me things about the lore that I was unaware of because I haven't made it all the way through the Sin Wars trilogy yet. And it was like the level of, God, like to us, this is just like an expansion coming out for the game that we like, and that's hype, and we get to make content about it. These people are putting out their art, and it's so obvious how much they care about it. Like sitting down to dinner, talking, from every member of the team, the dev team, the, like the IT team that was helping us with like the setups, the community management team, like Bloodshed and Pez Radar, their boss, like sitting down and talking to these people about the industry, about the game, about the expansion, how we fit into that ecosystem, how they saw the event, was levels of like insight that helps me to appreciate the fact that like this is more than just a video game that we play. And I would not like, I would have just done that the whole time. I would have just sat in a room talking with these people about the game for as many hours as they would be willing to listen to me. And luckily they were incredibly gracious, and they never seemed to run out of answers for the questions that I had. And they took every concern or balance, or I found a bug, right? Like unironically, I did spend time hitting the training dummy in the new Kuros Bazaar, and I was like, "Hey guys, I found a bug here." And like Bjorn walks over and he's like, "Oh, let me jot that down, etc." It was the coolest experience I've had thus far in the industry with this company, like by a far margin.
Yeah, so I've been playing Diablo since I was a little kid, and I've been doing content creation for many years. I feel like Adam Fletcher, Pez Radar, the community manager. I've talked to Adam about so many different things over the years. Bloodshed is now one of the main guys over there. I've streamed alongside Bloodshed. It was actually really cool to have me, Woody, and Bloodshed in the same room. I was like, wow, like this was the D3 category for years and years and years, not to diminish any other streamers, but we were the ones that were just mercilessly blasting. I was like, wow, here we are. This is incredible. But the point I want to make is, so I have hopefully a good relationship with a lot of people at Blizzard, but it's a very different ball game when you actually are there, when you're sitting down, having a dinner, talking about the game and the future. I had never met Brent before, and I feel like at the end of the trip, like him and I were like best friends. Just he told me on the very last night, he said he was nervous to talk to me and like have an interview about the game, because I don't know, he thought, I don't know why, I mean, am I that bad? But he thought I was going to be like really savage or something, and I was like, I mean, I'm not as nice as Woody or Macro, but am I seriously that bad? The relationships that you can build actually going there and chatting with them and experiencing that, it's actually quite incredible. Even I thought it would happen, but I also underestimated it. And another thing that I was very happy about, like you get kind of brainwashed as you like hear stuff on the internet endlessly about D4 bad, they have the worst developers ever, there's no passion, Blizzard is dead, the old Blizzard is the only good one. Dude, I walk up and shake somebody's hand. Yeah, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I worked on Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. I'm like, that's like my favorite game ever. It's like, holy shit. He's like, yeah, I've been doing this for a couple of decades. Next, I've been here for 30 years doing this and that. I'm like, all right, so... And as Macro said, you start to ask them questions. You start to like do a litmus test and actually check them. Oh, they know way more than you think they would do. I was like, man, these guys are like the Wizard of Oz. They're like behind the curtain all the time. We need to bring the people out like the Adam Jacksons and the Collins and all the people that we met onto the campfires that know all of these things, so we can start putting out some of these fires. So it was a very awesome experience. Like a once in a lifetime experience. I was very honored that they invited me and I got to be a part of it.
Also, shout out to the fact, and this is, we kind of touched on it, Rax has a full head of hair. I'm revealing it. It's luscious locks all the way down, and the dude is low-key fit. I don't think enough people appreciate that on the live streams. I just want to touch on that.
Look at the webcam. Look how fat I look wearing this cookie. Like, I get it. I wear a hood. I have a cookie
monster. 4 pillows under there. But so like even just to talk to, so people might not know, but this is the first time that Rax and I have met in the real world. Obviously, like Woody and I had met before, but we've never been working together for years. Never met the dude. It was wild bananas. That was, it's always one of the cool parts, which is like, oh yeah, we're all real humans. We don't only exist in Discord and on our live streams. And just being able to like go and hang out, like, hey, like where do we want to grab lunch? And also, are we all cool people? It's just like a really nice thing to be able to like get to experience that. Because like I would consider a lot of these people to be my friends, and it's weird having never met them in the real world. So like that's one of the things I also really cherish from being able to do stuff like this. Because like whenever would I, other than maybe if I went out to Gamescom or something, like when would I have ever met Woody in the real world? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and Macro kept telling me, he's like, yeah, I'm 5'8", I'm really short, and and he, like, Macro, this is a compliment. He looks kind of like a small guy on his. It's like the opposite of me. I look like I'm Jabba the Hutt. He looks kind of like a small guy on webcam. I sized up Macro. I'm like, Macro's pretty buff, and Macro's almost as tall as me. It's like, dude, if him and I had a gladiator match, this should actually be pretty close. This would be fun. Parkour instructor. I didn't know that. I mean, this guy's frying, man. Woody's exactly as I thought he would be.
Woody looks exactly like you think Woody. He is. That is
the
exactly.
Webcam. That's Woody. Like exactly that.
And it's weird because he actually is only from the chest up. You know, a lot of people make jokes that you don't have legs. No, he is legit from the pectoral muscle up. He kind of has this hoverboard that he floats around on. Some cool German tech. It's pretty sick.
That also that would also explain why he never has to go and pee during the races, because there's it's just not there.
Can I tell you one story? And I know Woody is fucking sick of hearing it, but I'm not sick of telling. Can I tell you one story about Woody?
Is that the recognizing you story?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know you've heard it.
I've never heard it. I've never heard it. Let it rip, baby.
I wanted to ask that one, so I'm glad you're talking about it. No, please go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it another 50 times. Okay, so Woody lands. He comes to the Xbox Studios. We already recorded a video. Okay, now we ought to redo it. Fine. Woody and I are hanging out. We go hang out by the Halo games, and we're shooting each other with the guns. Haha. Okay, we have the whole day. We go to the setups, da-da-da-da-da. We go back to the hotel. They say, all right, everyone go to your rooms, then we're going to go out to dinner. Okay, get changed, come on down. Fine.
How long do you know Woody?
Like how long have I known him, or how long were we together?
No,
like
how
in that
long
day?
do you know him, like forever? Like what's the time frame you know him for?
I think I met him maybe 6. I knew of Woody a long time ago because he streamed a long time ago. So, but Woody and I actually think the very first time I ever talked to Woody was in Anna's chat. I was chatting with Anna as a new streamer, and Woody was there, and that's the first time I ever actually spoke to him.
But easily 5 years
like,
plus, right?
It should be exactly 5 years. Okay. 6 months.
Yeah, it's not really complicated. Okay. I think I had like this break, in the middle seasons, let's say, or in the free, and then like I came back in like season 19 with a vengeance, kind of. And this is also where I remember like first time really interacting with Rax, and we were blasting like Rax was already like established at that point, and yeah.
Just to preface Rex's story here a little bit as well, right?
Yeah. So I've known Woody. There's not a content creator I've spent more time with on Woody as far as competing on his team, and Maxroll, everything. There's no person, not even close, right? So we go back to the hotel. Everyone go to your rooms, get ready, and come back down. Okay, fine. So I come down to Sarah, and I changed out of my blue hoodie. I'm just wearing a regular shirt. And I think I rocked up to Macro first. Macro turned around. Oh, what's up, dude? Okay. And I see Bloodshed. Hey, man, fist pump. Adam is there. Brent is there. And I could see Woody kind of at the back is just kind of observing. Okay. I'm walking through. What's up, guys? Dinner. Let's go. And I walk up to Woody, and I'm right in front of him, and Woody's going. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, that's a weird face. And it took me about 1.5 seconds of looking at this. And I was like, oh my God. Woody is wondering, who is this guy that everyone is fist bump? He doesn't know who I am. Like it wasn't the look of, wow, Rax looks different without a hoodie. It's, I don't know who this person is. And I go, Woody, it's me. And he goes, oh my God. And he goes, now that is branding. That is branding 101. He's like, oh, dude, I got to get a picture of you, man. That's unbelievable. So Woody literally completely perplexed at who I was as a human being just by wearing a regular shirt.
It's true though. Like I did not recognize you for like a solid like 10 or 15 seconds. So I was just like, so it was like, this is you. You have the hoodie. You have it on your thumbnails. Everywhere. So this is just Max. So to my defense, he looks very different under the hoodie.
That's such a cool
You got a
story.
selfie then. Actually, Sarah took a picture of us. So I have a picture that I cannot show to anyone. It's ND8, but it's there. So I'm gonna cherish it.
One of these days you can post it.
That's such a cool story for sure. When you told that one while I was in the stream, I was laughing like crazy. That's so cool.
Yeah, I actually didn't recognize me at all.
I'm looking forward for that subathon where we need to reach that top goal, huh, Rex?
I was talking to Woody about that. I was like, I've never done a subathon in my whole streaming career because it doesn't make sense, right? We just blast. It's like, oh, sub to me, so I'll blast more. Nah, bro.
Yeah, it's kind of strange, right? Because
it doesn't.
Like, okay, you wake up, you start blasting, you go to sleep. You wake up, you start blasting, you go to sleep. Like, what's the difference to a subathon exactly?
Well, they have to watch you sleep. That's the kink portion of it.
At this point, that's
It's
the only difference anymore.
And we can pay extra for that.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's the voyeurism. It's kind of funny you bring up that concept where like being a streamer in like the ARPG space is just like kind of so inherently different than streaming and even a lot of different game spaces where it's just like, where are these other people streaming 24 hours a day for a week straight just because there's like a kind of an update to the video game? It's really, really insane, and it makes subathons completely useless. I guess you could like watch me read a ton of books for a subathon or something, but like nobody wants to see that.
There's like when Woody hears 20 hours, he thinks of a normal Monday.
He's like, yep, Monday.
Yeah,
Yep,
that's
on the
Monday.
schedule.
What are you talking about? What kind of subathon is that supposed to be?
To Streamer One, it was the ultimate 5-year anniversary stream. To Woody, it was Wednesday.
Yeah, it's just how it goes, You wake up and you start blasting. So, what can you do?
I'll tell you one thing. Macro missed, but only because he had to catch a flight, which he never caught. He never caught his flight because rip airports. But you missed the bowling. You missed the bowling.
Oh, I was so upset. I wanted to bowl.
Dude, you missed us bowling with the dragon thing for the little kids to throw the bowl down a straight. You think like we go bowling with Blizzard, we're going to be professional, right? No, we got the 4-pound ball. We're throwing it as hard as we can. No, we got the dragon. What would you even call it? The stand,
like
the dragon tee, the dragon slide, and we're putting English, aiming it at the gutter, putting English, trying to spin it down the lane like absolute children. Dude, you missed the bowling, man.
What is this dragon slide? What's that?
It's got to be like a learn how to bowl like kid apparat, like a wiffle ball tee or something, right?
Yeah. And so like
it's basically like a plastic slide for the bowling ball.
Okay, I get it.
So the kids can just push it
you
down.
just put it on there and then it. Okay, yeah, I get it.
And if you put it dead center and you let the ball slide, it goes straight into the left gutter instantly. So it doesn't even work. So we're like, okay, angle it here, English, full power, engineer it down, and then like after like 16 dude, I'll tell you my favorite thing. After like 16 throws, Filthy Rich finally hit like 4 pins with the dragon slide. And then when we got to the end of the second game, we're putting away our shoes. Woody came up to me and said, yeah, if you look at the total scores of the pins, my team beat you. I look at Woody and I go, Woody, are you fucking kidding me? We threw half of our throws down the fucking broken dragon slide. Are you gonna like take a picture of that and post it on the fridge and feel good about it?
Yeah.
Bro, we were throwing them down the dragon slide.
Dude, we weren't really doing teams. It was just like a joke I made there. So
I know it was a joke. But still, I can't believe you said it though. We're just rolling it down the dragon slide for half of the game.
I guess that was like my German attitude coming through a little bit.
Just deadpan joke delivery. You want to? I don't think we should spend too much time bemoaning the fact that the internet turned off for 6 hours for airplanes. That was pretty cool. The grand irony being that I had to leave early, so I was going home for my 10-year anniversary. We had a whole weekend set up. So I was going to take a red-eye flight, which for you Europeans means an overnight flight. I found out that Germans have no idea what red-eye means. I've been asked by 2 or 3 different Maxroll German team members who are like, was ist das? And I'm like, it's the overnight flight. But I needed to take an overnight flight. So my flight was going to leave at midnight, and I was going to get home with the time dilation from flying west to east by 8 in the morning. I got there. My flight was so early on in CloudStrike going down that my flight actually got canceled. And then the app wouldn't work. I sat in a help desk line for 4 real human hours at 4 in the morning after having not slept, just to not make it to the front of the help desk line. And then my girlfriend ended up having to get me a flight on a completely different airway for the next overnight flight. So I spent 23 hours in the Seattle airport eating the most expensive chicken fingers I've ever eaten in my life. $21 for 4 chicken fingers and a handful of French fries. Seattle is insanely expensive for no reason. Just to take a second red-eye flight. And I ended up not getting home until like 8 in the morning on the next day. And I basically didn't sleep since Thursday. I got my first night of sleep on Saturday night. It felt real good, guys. Y'all ever sleep throughout the night for like 8 hours? Insane levels of power that brings to the human body. But that was like everybody. Like Rax is like, oh, I got right on my plane, and then you got stuck in like Denver or something because you're the connecting flight.
I want to tell you how I got home because I feel very proud of it. Okay, so I went to Seattle, got on the plane, okay, and we're on the plane on time. I have a 1.5 hour layover. This is perfect. I'm sorry, Macro. I feel bad for you, but I'm going home, right? The plane stopped for an hour on the runway. So I'm doing the math here, and I'm like, okay, however it was set up, it was not possible for me to hit my connecting flight. It wasn't mathematically possible. The pilot comes over the intercom and he goes, all right, we had to wait an hour. I know that screwed over some of you. I'm sorry about the computers being down, but I'm going to fly real fast in the sky. I could probably make up half an hour for you. So I'm going to give you a shot. I'm like, okay, I like that. He did that. He made up a decent chunk of time, but then there's also taxiing and stuff. And they had everybody raise their hands in the airplane of who has an immediate connecting flight. And it was me and only a few others. So all the people at the back of the plane let us up. They let us out, but all of the first class people didn't care. So by the time there was like a big delay, by the time we got to the first class seats, all 5 rows of them on both sides were completely empty. So Sarah and I were running as fast as we could, and you don't get on your flight, not when the plane takes off, it's when the door shuts. We arrived, the door was shut, and the plane was gone. We checked our phone. The plane departed 7 minutes early, even though we were 2 minutes early based upon the doors closing for the gate. So if the plane had left exactly on time, we should have had 2 minutes to go in the door. Okay, so then it was endlessly changing our gates, changing our flights, delay, and it was already delayed to where we were leaving at like 10:30. We weren't going to get back until like 1 in the morning. And then I was sitting there and just thinking, okay, is there anything that I can do to get home? Because I'm about ready to give up. I'm just going to leave and go get a hotel or something, or I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm about out of ideas. Then I found out on the app, you can track the airplane, not the flight, the airplane that is coming to the airport to take you. I tracked it to Montana, and the airplane was not taking off because it was broken down at 2:20 p.m. in Montana. So then it said, in order for the plane to pick us up at 10:30 to complete the final flight, it would have had to have left at 8. And it was 8:02, and the plane had not departed, even though my app had not updated that we were delayed. So I said, okay, I'm screwed, right? There's nothing I can do. I checked for flights for Lincoln. There were no flights. But then I checked for full flights for Lincoln. And there was one that was, the doors were just open to a full flight. I said, And it was all the way across the airport. I said, Sarah, pick up your shit. We're running. We're running all the way to this gate. We ran all the way across the Denver airport. We got there and I go, hi, can I get on this plane? No, it's full. And I go, is there like a waiting list? Yes, we can put you on the waiting list. But even on a day like today, the chances of you getting on this plane are pretty much zero. I go, nope, I believe. I'm going to stand right here. And I did, off to the side, like I'm not bothering her. But I go, just remember me, the blue guy and the blue guy over here. I'm a person. Remember me. And then, so the doors are open. Everyone is gone. I'm just sitting there. And she's like, all right, well, I have one seat available and you need two, but one person who is on this flight is coming into the airport right now, but the door needs to shut right now and his gate is nowhere near. It's on the complete opposite side of the airport. There's a 0% chance they're going to get here. So I'm going to vacate that seat and you can both get on. That's how we got home. Tracking the airplane and then going to the full flight and being annoying.
And rest in peace to that dude who was like, hold the gate for me. And they're like, sorry, dude, get bad. I don't know what to tell you.
She
That's
said
insane, though.
She said she can't hold the gate. She said the plane is taxiing. Yeah.
I always thought they're not going to leave without
that
you.
That was a story.
To be honest.
It's basically like Rax being in IRL how he is like, in the round tables, I guess.
Yeah,
always like a pain in the ass.
But he's our pain in the ass, and that's what's important about it.
Yeah, that's
it's like a mosquito trying to suck blood from a mummy.
Guys,
and for me it was like, okay, I think Rax actually got home, like despite all of this, I think Rax got home like nearly a day earlier than me or something.
Yep.
So there's that, I guess. Like, Rax was already back in his element. Like I actually returned home at like past midnight on Saturday, and that is like in Europe, not in US, which is like further ahead. So yeah, I had like one big flight from Seattle to Frankfurt, and then I had like a 10-hour like wait in Frankfurt that actually got delayed by like 2 hours in the end. So I was kind of like there the entire day, barely slept because I was obviously looking at the Spiritborn stuff on the flight. And then Mippy like messaged me, and Mippy, one of our Maxroll writers for Gorok, and he said, hey, I'm in Frankfurt, by the way, let's hang out. And so I went out with Mippy there, and we were like having coffee and then food and stuff. That was kind of cool. So that was kind of my story. And then went back to the airport, and they had like a 2-hour delay at the end, but at that point it didn't really matter anymore. So I got home like at 2 instead of at midnight, so who cares?
So traveling,
it was rough.
Traveling definitely F tier. Do not recommend, huh?
Yeah, but actually the way back was way easier than the way to NA. So I had trouble checking in on every single flight. It was actually kind of horrific. Yeah, in fact, I missed my first flight. I think I said that earlier, right? So we had to rebook my flight for like a day later. So instead of 16th, I went on 17th. And I kind of arrived there like last minute, right when the program kind of officially began. So I kind of missed the exploration part of Seattle and hanging out with the boys, unfortunately. But at least I got there, and I do have to give a shout out for Blizzard to kind of like just handle that last minute. I was calling up Blood like in the middle of the night for NA people, like, yo, I won't make this flight. I need help. And then he kind of moved, a lot of other people, and they actually got me another flight for the next day. So that was really nice. It's not very easy when you're like 12,000 kilometers away or something. So
yeah, big, like super big shouts, because like, I'm messaging because I'm like, I checked out of my hotel early. I'm at an airport. I don't know what's going to happen. I was just going to stick it out, but like, what if I had to go back or whatever? And I'm just like, I'm messaging Blood in like in Discord, and he's like, yo, I found like this flight. Let me, because I'm also trying to get a flight for a new thing, right? Because they got us through one airline. I'm like, well, I'm going to go through a completely different one. Can I get reimbursed? Like, what's going to be the deal? And he's like, oh, let me get it. Like, he's like, I'm talking to everybody right now to try to get your flight rebooked for a different time. But if not, give us the details. Like they made it. They were like, this is a shitty situation. They're also all trying to get onto planes and get home. They have devs stranded out in Seattle, and also like staying up to date with whatever information I had and trying to coordinate with me. They did an exceptionally good job of trying to handle that chaos with whatever limited resources they could, because it's like they can't make the planes go in the air, but they can damn sure try to help you, which I think they did a really good job with that, honestly.
Yeah. Chat asked me how did I miss my flight. So I thought I was going early. I live 8 miles from the airport. Okay, like on a good day, I can be there in like 12 minutes if I want. So I called a taxi in the morning. That was like, I don't know, I think like around 2 hours before or something. It's a small airport. You can go from the check-in to the gate in like 2 minutes if you want. So there's on one terminal. So I tried to call a taxi. The taxi took like forever to arrive. Usually it's like 2 minutes. At this time it was like 15 minutes until I actually found one and sent it to me. Then the traffic was horrific that day. I don't know what was going on. And then I arrived at the airport and was still like, okay, like 1.5 hours, easy peasy. Usually the airport is very quiet. And it was just like packed with 1 million people. And for some reason they decided to just like close the check-in like over an hour in advance for this flight. Even though the small size of the airport and stuff like that, so they just didn't let me on. And I was not the only one actually. There were like an entire group of people that were just sitting there at the booth after someone told me, "Nah, you can't check in here. You have to go there." After I was already standing in queue for like half an hour and stuff like that, and they said, "Yeah, go over there. You can't do that." And then there was like this group of people, and they just said, "Yeah, screw you guys." Like that was basically it. So very nice experience. And I couldn't do online check-in. It just didn't work. I don't know why. So yeah, they just didn't let us. I never missed a flight before. That was kind of wild.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of stress. At least it worked out in the end somehow. That's great. Guys, to sum this up, I wanted to go into... Wait, let me open this. I wanted to close, rather, with the chat question. So maybe everyone's chat could type out some interesting things you guys wanted to know, maybe for the Spiritborn, maybe for what food everyone ate, what was the best food they had in Seattle. So get typing. That's actually...
Give us the question, guys. What do you want to know? Go ahead, Chronic. Sorry.
No, I wanted to hear your favorite kind of like experience when it comes to the trip. Maybe like in a brief things, like was it playing, was it streaming, was it eating, was it walking around Seattle? What was it for you guys?
Easy answer. The hotel we went to is the most insane, like Quentin Tarantino level, like nonsense Miami Vice hotel. There were all glass windowed showers in the middle of the bedroom, no way to block them off, just next to the bed, not in a bathroom, not on the inside. A 3-piece mirror in front of it, straight up glass shower head. This was a freaky hotel, y'all. Some cool people go to this hotel and they have a very good time.
So I'm sorry, Chronix, what's your question? What was our favorite part about Seattle? I'm sorry, what exactly was the question?
Your favorite part about the trip? Was it the food? Was it playing the Spiritborn? Was it streaming? Was it talking to the devs?
The last one. Talking to Blizzard, meeting Woody, Macro, Fame, and Bloodshed, and Adam, and Brent. It was the people. The people was the number one thing. I think it dwarfed everything else for me. The other thing was all secondary to me.
Yeah, for me, it was like I arrive, we do like the little thing with the announcement, and then they just push me into this room to play Spiritborn for 4 hours, unbothered, in my lane, like, that was lovely, I was just blasting. No offense, guys, but I love that. So
I was hoping for that answer.
Everybody was like blasting stuff. And I come walking around the corner because we had like, I don't know, like in total, we've now played the Spiritborn the most out of anybody who isn't a dev. And that's like 7 to 8 hours. But that first day was like 4 or so hours. And I come walking out of the room and people are like, oh, this and that. And what you tried. I'm like, I made one monkey build. I have my list of aspects I'm going to show off on stream. This is the one thing I did. I played this build and I created a build list for it. Just like being able to sit down with it and just being like, hey, go play it, like do whatever you want. That was incredibly cool as well.
Here's 2 questions from my community for people. What did you like about Seattle? And give any names of places that you went, and would you do it again if you had the opportunity? So I guess I'll start. I didn't go anywhere. Well, other than what's within a 1-minute walking distance of the hotel. From the time that I arrived, the time that I left, there was always something scheduled. We were either going to a dinner, going to a lunch, conversing with each other, waiting for something to happen, in transit. I didn't have a single day where it's like, oh, let's go to Mount Rainier or let's go see the ocean or anything. But one thing that I could tell you that surprised me about Seattle, and I've been to a lot of different places, is the amount of vegetation everywhere, even in a major city. There's trees and bushes and green everywhere, all around you. And it actually made it feel a little bit cozy. A lot of people say Seattle's one of the best places to visit in the summer. It has a very nice temperature and climate and appeal to it. Would I do it again? Probably not, because I hate traveling with a passion. And it's like a once in a lifetime opportunity. People love traveling. People love the opportunity. I totally get that. That's not me. I just want to sit in a corner and do nothing. But if I had never went to visit Blizzard and I had the opportunity again, I would go at a minimum one time to meet everybody. That is invaluable. But now that I've done that, now that I've shaken their hand, I don't ever want to even go to my mailbox ever again for the rest of my life. By the way, everyone's going to laugh. I'm not kidding. I'm being serious. Not laughing.
I feel like we just read like a diary page. Dear diary, never again. I'll keep it a little bit short and sweet here. We were in Bellevue, which apparently is like the fancy city of Seattle. We got to meet up with Echo Hack because they're in Washington. I mean, they were kind of giving us a tour and stuff. Fantastic dude, fantastic wife, very nice. And
met Seattle too. Seattle Witch.
Yep, and Seattle Witch got to come out for dinner, which I thought was really cool. But we were in Bellevue. I went out for breakfast in the morning because apparently nobody else wanted to get up and go eat breakfast because they're all like aliens or something. And I went over to a place called 13 Coins. It was like a 24-hour. I thought it was going to be like a diner because it was like 24-hour food service. But I walked in, it was like all black, backlit, black leather, like mahogany tables. The waiter was this like weird, like California surfer attitude. He's like, "What's going on? Let's get it. Let's go. What do you need?" And I'm like, breakfast. He's like, "I got it, boss." And he just kind of like surfed away from me on this little vibe. Not the most expensive food, which was pretty sick. It was about $18 for like 2 eggs, some bacon, and some toast, which was very reasonable in that city. But it was pretty nice. It was cool to just like hit up a place and be like, what are people eating around here?
Would you do it again?
I would never go back to that city. It was so heinously expensive for no goddamn reason. Like, I live in Boston. Seattle was just like Boston with less stuff in it, but nearly like 50% more expensive for no damn reason. Unironically, I'm miserly with money, so that was a big no-no for me.
Yeah, I guess luckily, like most of the stuff was just covered by Blizzard, I guess, with like the dinner and whatever, right? So it was not really such a problem. But I get it. It seemed like a very expensive city, but a nice city. So I'm not sure if I really want to kind of like call out anything specific here, but I did enjoy like just having the dinner with the devs and everyone. Like everyone's sitting at this long table, and you know we were sitting there for like a few hours, and it was amazing. Talking to like Brent and Bjorn, they was like sitting basically right next to me. It was cool.
And would you go again?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I already went for BlizzCon last time, and that was like quite the experience. Like way bigger than this, right? And yeah, like obviously, I was there now, and I'll definitely go again. It's just kind of like a struggle to go there, especially from where I live. You know, it's like literally like one day travel back, and you know I was there for like 2 nights, so I traveled more than I actually stayed, right? So that's kind of wild. And you know, for BlizzCon that is okay. For something like that, it's kind of rough. But okay, this is how it is. And I would definitely come back, you know, for like whatever. That's cool, even though it means like I basically sacrifice like a holiday or something for me, because you know usually I'm here like every day, and I basically never take days off, almost never go on vacation. Sometimes here and there, and this kind of like replaced the vacation for me now. But it was a cool one as well.
I getting a couple of questions that I assume a lot of people are kind of getting this similar flavor, which is like, is this just Druid 2.0? Is this just a Monk 2.0? For just kind of like kick it off, I really don't understand why people are like so hard stuck on this is just better Druid and like they're gonna keep the Druid bad just to make this cool. It's just a dude who's near some pictures of animals. It's nothing like it's not even vaguely like the Druid in any way, shape, or form. It just also adds skill tags to skills. But I mean, yeah, like, is it like a Monk? Yes. I mean, like, of course it's like a Monk. Basically every single skill is a dash. And then I think that's kind of where the similarities stop. I think they've done a pretty good job of making a unique game experience for a class that we haven't seen in the franchise before.
Yeah, I agree with that. It does not feel like Druid at all. You know, like people just look at the picture and like, you know, spirits and oh no, but it's not Druid in any way.
It doesn't feel like Druid. It does feel like a unique experience out of any class in any game, MMO or ARPG. It definitely feels the most like a Diablo 3 monk. I'd say it's about 70% feel-wise like a Diablo monk. I think there is enough of a difference, though, in how some of the attacks work, where it does also simultaneously feel unique. That's my interpretation of it. It feels 0 like a Druid. Doesn't feel like a Druid at all. Not even 5%. It feels completely different to play the class.
I got a question here from my chat that I can throw in. Will every one of us play Spiritborn, and what happens to guides of other classes if so? So I guess I'm probably like the one to answer that, and that's I said to everyone on the D4 Maxroll team, okay guys, you can go play the Spiritborn when it comes out, and I understand everyone wants to have fun, but of course you're not going to neglect the other classes. We still have, you know, Maxroll on the Necro and, you know, Condis on the Barb and whatever. So we're definitely going to make sure that once, you know, the dust kind of settles in like the first week or something, we're going to update, you know, as much as we can, and then kind of like go from there and make sure that, you know, everyone gets a bit of time, you know, trying to the new class, the new thing, and then, you know, maybe they can like, you know, switch between them and their main or something. So that's kind of the idea, I guess.
I'm really much looking forward to what the current classes are going to look like when Spiritborn releases as well. Like we talked about this during this podcast, right? It's going to be very interesting revisiting what we have been playing with over the last year, and especially all those new changes are also going to be really interesting to me. Not only blasting the super new thing, but also looking at how does my class, or how do the classes that I've been playing the last year, how did they change and how do they feel now? Did something shift? Do I like something way more now than before? That's also going to be very interesting to me. I gotta be honest.
I think Woody hit it with the comment on the dust will eventually settle. It's a new shiny toy. Very soon after acquiring a new shiny toy, it is no longer a new shiny toy. All classes will be given equal attention and updated properly for all time on Maxroll. You never have to worry about that. For me personally, the way that they would have completely attached me to the Spiritborn forever is if they had made it like a WoW Shaman. It feels close to 0% like a WoW Shaman as someone who has played it for 16,000 hours. But it is very much like a Diablo 3 monk, which I do also love. So when the dust settles, I plan to be mainly a Barb Spiritborn main, because those are the archetypes that I like the most. But like always, I'll play all the classes every season.
There's also the part where it's like, because you literally like 4/5 of the player base has no idea what I do because all I play is the Necromancer, and I very much intend on changing that with the Spiritborn because oddly enough, like there are other classes. My major issue is I just haven't legitimately enjoyed playing the other classes, not in like I think they're bad sort of way, but they didn't necessarily have like the game feel that I wanted, which is very hard to explain. But y'all know with a class that changes every single skill based off of which spirit you've chosen and changes its mechanics, all you're going to see out of me is sitting in New Kuros Bazaar at the target dummy, just being like, boop, 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 boop. This doesn't work. Check it off the list. Boop, boop, boop. This one does. And it's very, very exciting for me to have a thing like that where everybody's kind of coming in on the ground floor. You know, people are like, oh, you got to go play the Sork. We need you to go make Excel sheets about the Sork. I'm like, first off, some of the smartest people ever play the Sork. Northie is over there playing the Sork. I promise you, he's already tested it. And one of the things that kind of holds me back is feeling like, oh, I can't really contribute anything valuable to this because I already know there are a ton of intelligent people who have like already done all this work. This is like a brand new thing that lets me experience that discovery period in a video game again. And I'm really excited for that. That being said, though, everybody's going to want to play Spiritborn, and Chronix and I are going to have the Necromancer all to ourselves. Nobody else will even be covering this class. If you need info on it, you got to come to us, baby. Okay, that's the secret. That's the sauce. That's what having a niche means. But no, I'm very excited to try it out. But no, we're not going to abandon the classes all of a sudden. Like just put them in the character graveyard of non-meta.
I'm sad you leaked our master plan, Macro.
You have any other questions, Chronix?
I'm looking. None of these really sound super duper interesting. I'll answer them after the stream.
So basically what Chronix is saying, chat, you failed.
Get wrecked, chat. Holy.
I gotta be honest, we've been kind of like category hopping here a little bit. And I hyped everyone up for the next couple of ARPGs already, or the next ARPG already. So probably everyone is right now playing Path of Building right now, or fishing, or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, PoE is around the corner. I guess everyone's going to jump on that, or most people will that play RPGs. It's going to be fun. There's actually like a question about that, so maybe I can throw that in here.
Sure.
Wait, where was that? About a trade that they added now. So, you know, like, do we, for example, expect any trade improvements similar to what like PoE has done now? For those that don't know,
I know the answer.
Like a currency trading system basically in the game directly, where you can just like basically like a market, you know, like with asynchronous trading. So that sounds very fun. Yeah, Rex.
Yeah, I just know the answer. I asked Brent directly on my stream. I asked him, is there an auction house or trading? I think the question was specifically, is there something like an auction house coming? I even prefaced it with saying, not even talking about D3 auction house, just stuff to trade stuff. And they said there's no plans for that. So the answer is no.
Unlucky.
I will just be
rough.
screaming into the void until at least the answer is maybe. Like it is wild to me that we're in 2024 and I don't expect to see an auction house anytime soon in this game that lets me trade items. Now,
So-
to their credit, they wanted to stop us from trading items, and we complained about that for long enough until they let us. And now it's just like, bro, just give me a UI element. And like, I know it takes a lot of work. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it should absolutely be a priority.
So I talked to him about, in general, again, Brent, the game director, the expansion, and I asked him we talked about like unfavorable answers that the community doesn't like. So two of them that come off the top of my head are no auction house coming, and the class that we got wasn't Paladin, because a lot of people wanted the holy archetype. So I asked him a question somewhere along the lines of, can you give it to me straight? Like, I know you're here. I know that you're obligated to say yes, but give it to us straight one time. If we voice what we would like in the game, does that actually impact what we might get? And he genuinely said absolutely. He said, if everyone is screaming from the high heavens that we want Paladin, and everyone endlessly screams from the high heavens that you want an auction house, that definitely impacts the actual development of Diablo 4. So I said, so just to paraphrase you, if we just keep complaining, we will eventually get what I want. And then he just laughed, which I would take as a yes. So that strategy that you introduced, Macro, should work per his words. And this is why
Okay.
Blizzard will never
Head
do
to the
another
forums
interview
now.
with me ever.
Everyone go to the forums, link in the description and pinned in the Twitch chats, I guess.
No, but the general sentiment is what the community wants. If there is a massive outcry for it, they want to make the game that the players want to play. Simple as that.
Yeah, I think at this point, we need it. It's just super important for quality of life and also for the progression for quite a lot of people, probably, when it comes to like items for tormented bosses. Maybe you don't like the pit, but you still want to do them. Oh, I can sell maybe my stuff that I find in the Helltide and go buy the Stygian stones, for example. I don't know, right?
I mean,
offers an alternative way of acquiring stuff with doing the stuff you want and then buying the stuff you don't want to do, right?
I think I can describe the phenomenon in simple terms for all ARPGs and MMOs, whatever. If there's a basic function of the game, entering a dungeon, trading, killing a boss, anything like that, if in order to do this, I need to tab out and use some other program, the design is flawed. If I'm doing the thing in the game, not in the game, it's over. The only exception that I can think of is I like to play these kinds of games, whether it's WoW, PoE, Last Epoch, Diablo 4. I like to have my guide for the whole build, all my skills, all my Paragon, all my gems, all my 6 links. That is very helpful. I don't expect you to put a build guide into the game. But if it's a basic function of the game and you're making me tab out to something else, I'm out. Like I'm instantly disengaged from it. I can download it, I can learn it, I can become an expert in it. WoW add-ons are cool. I don't want them to get add-ons actually just put you go to a third-party thing to put add-ons in your game so you don't have to go to the third-party thing. You know, so it's like if you're designing it, if there's a core function that you have to tab out to do, you've disengaged me instantly.
Meanwhile, Rex blasting PoE all week.
I have my 99 Bone Shatter POB on my monitor, and that's it.
Yeah, I saw.
Fair enough.
I saw your speedrun attempts, Rex. You need to download Lilocan UI. It's gonna help you learn all the little tricks.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
Message me that later. I don't know what that is, but
yeah, I'll show you in a second. Or after the podcast, rather, I would say. We had actually one question. How was it hanging out with Fame? With Fame Regalis, who kind of like left that out. She was also part of all of this, right?
Yeah, for me, I didn't really know her much before. I just like kind of knew her name and she's like around. So personally, I didn't have like much of a connection to her or something. But she seemed nice. That's basically what I can say. It was like, I think she was actually like, yeah, sometimes, like we were like hanging out or whatever, standing there talking. And yeah, I mean, it was nice meeting her for sure. I don't really have that much to say, to be honest.
Yeah, Fame's cool people. For people who don't know Fame, anybody here who you've watched, Fame has twice as many hours live streamed of this game as like any other person on this planet. They do like 12, 16-hour days every single day, regardless of how hyped the season is. And they've just been doing that nonstop since the game came out. I'd only learned about Fame because she was going to be attending this event. I was like, oh, I should probably go know who this person is. She just like, she plays every single build. She does every meme build. She does everything into her own work. Because I was asking her about it. She was like, well, it's, like you got to play this stuff, because if you don't play it, how do you know that it's bad or good, or like what can you learn about it? She was super cool. The major issue is that, especially as you see us in like these types of podcasts, we're all very loud and opinionated and will endlessly discuss any single topic. So it was a lot of us, because we've also all been like friends now for a while, right? And all talking and in different situations together. there was just like so much of us just being like, and another thing I've thought about this game, and we're all long-winded, so let me explain the entirety of the details of it. But she was super cool, was participating in everything, you know, like she was everywhere that we were at, right? She's a cool person. I would recommend checking out her content, because I'll share this little behind the scenes. Pez Radar Adam Fletcher really likes watching her content, because she has a endless narrative going the entire time that she's playing. She's talking about what she's doing. She's talking about the skill choices that she's making. She's talking about the monsters ahead of her. She's talking about what she's doing in the town, the items that she's picked up. It's basically like Diablo ASMR for all intents and purposes.
It's an audiobook.
And Adam's just like, I love that. It is like constant Diablo stim. It's like fantastic. She's a cool chick.
I have just looked this up, and I have recently looked up how many hours Woody has, so that I understand how small of a blaster I actually am when it comes to like streaming the game on Twitch. Woody had, at last time I checked, 2.8k hours. Just to put this into perspective, Fame has 4.1k hours. Okay, that's ridiculous.
It's no cap, dude. Homie
crazy.
Does nothing but play this game and then eat cheese to keep playing the game. It's actually crazy. Like, that's her words.
That's insane. Like, Woody's hours are already crazy, okay? That's, oh my god, I didn't know this. That's crazy. Insane.
So Fame is a very nice person, very soft-spoken. She's a blaster like us. One thing that I was going to mention this, and Mac already spoke about it. One thing that we had to keep at the top of our mind was we need to pause to let Fame give input, because the moment that a topic begins, our passion level and our volume level from the people here rises very rapidly. And the boxing gloves go on, and we want to fight. And anybody who's not ready for a fight can just become a spectator at a certain point. So it's a personality thing that we need to work on, not that she needs to work on. So we needed to make sure that we got her input and dialed it down a bit.
Okay, do we have any other questions that stand out to you guys?
Not from my side.
I think we're good.
No, it's just like a bunch of stuff that, like, one, we either cannot talk about, or two, like, just legit didn't see anything about. Like, there's like the speculation about like, oh, but I saw Juggernaut's number was lower, so like, are we getting a stat squish? Like, what's going to happen? I was talking about this early on stream, which is like, one, I don't know the details, but two, the numbers don't matter. Like none of this matters. Like, any of us trying to tell you like what it's going to look like in the expansion based off like character power, or what the Paragon power will look like, or what gear power will look like, they could cut everything down to a 1/10 of it. I think they should, if I'm being honest. Like, the numbers are too damn high, but like, it doesn't matter, because we don't know how the monsters change, we don't know how the content change, we don't know how the difficulty changes. So it's like, you know, how are you going to feel about being weaker in the future? I don't know, dog. I literally don't know what the content will look like. Numbers going down is not like indicative of a system that you can actually analyze.
We don't know how everything will shape up, but I think we could cumulatively say as a team, without spoiling any NDAs, that there are certainly things coming to Diablo 4 very soon that you can be looking forward to. We can give you that very cryptic teaser, and I'm pretty sure you guys are going to like them.
Answered that last question that just came up in chat, so thank you for that one, Rex. Well, I guess thank you so much for you guys, Mac, Woody, Rex, and also Kelly, actually. I have to include her in the YouTube titles as participant at this point, I guess. Thank you guys so much for your time and also your input. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I hope to see you guys the next time around for the next podcast. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks for the podcast, guys. Nice to meet you this week. GG's.
Yeah, much love, everybody.
Cheers.
GG's.